Hello, everyone. Just checking out which games were best. All I really did in my research, though, is find like one series that someone remarked on being the best. So we're just gonna run around. Wow, what oddly named replays. Hold on. Gotta bring out the Wikipedias. Because apparently the format was also more confusing than I thought. Okay, so they just, like, instead of saying, like, lower bracket semifinal or upper bracket semifinal, they just label it lower bracket or upper bracket and then rounds. And then they also put a number on it for some reason. I don't get that one. It's like one group A for, I mean, I guess it's just literally, I guess it's literally the order of the tournament played out. Okay. It's not knowing the fourth RSL caster make me a bad StarCraft fan. Was the fourth one Ziggy? Honestly, didn't look. I know it was Tasteless, State, Gemini, and then the fourth one is probably Ziggy. And that does not make you a bad StarCraft fan at all. He's very obscure name. Because he was he's a player. And you know, he still is pretty good as far as, you know, the overall StarCraft population. Might have seen him in a couple of like UK lands or something. Then he's been in Korea forever, so he actually studied the Korean language. So he's oftentimes working with Tasteless on stuff and hang out with him when I'm in Korea. But yeah, most people probably were wondering who it was. Yep, that's why I said you probably see him maybe in some UK lands, but otherwise, I mean, maybe some DreamHack groups, like, but years ago at this point, probably. I'm drinking on the job today. I got one more beer. This beer that I don't even really like. So yeah, I don't know if there were particularly good games or not. We're just gonna go through them all over the week before I leave for EWC. So, you know, some of them are gonna be kind of lame. Some of them are gonna be pretty cool. Let's get into Cure versus Byun to begin with. Just make sure my YouTube stream went live. Sometimes it's a little bit finicky, especially if I don't make it go live at the same time and make Twitch go live. All right, it's good. All right, then. Getting into game number 1. I will say that even though I'm not used to the numbers being there, they have actually taken a decent amount of time to organize these replays. So kudos, and, you know, some excuse for waiting, you know, 80 hours or whatever before releasing them. Can't forget my cat. Everyone's here for the cat cam. We're getting into a TVT first as we go through the RSL replays. This is going to be kind of a hybrid, you know, cast and analysis. So we'll take some time if there's something really interesting to look at. Maybe bring out the epic pen. Be all fancy with my drawings. But all right, we got ourselves bottom left, Cure, top left, Byun. This is the group stage. I'm obviously not going to go through literally every single replay, but replays that have players that are attending EWC, definitely. And then players, matches that have players matching up against each other, like in the same group or in the same play-in bracket, then absolutely want to cast those. And then maybe one or two of people that we don't see too often. Because I know Scarlet played in this one, and I know a lot of people would be interested in seeing, you know, how she's been playing and whatnot. Because she rarely makes an appearance nowadays. It plays in qualifiers, doesn't make it very far. But anyway, TVT. TVT, fortunately, has not changed very much. My confidence in this matchup, as far as knowing what's going on, is through the roof. And we actually have a 2-rack versus 2-rack situation. Both in base, both not feeling the need to scout because they're both doing something that would usually protect them against anything that would be cheese. So if Byun was proxying his 2-racks, he might have one moment where, I mean, no, I don't even think, like, if he was proxying his 2-racks, he'd still be arriving later than Cure's Reapers, but with the same build. Or almost same build, I should say. I was gonna say maybe the first Reaper could pop out sooner, depending on like how much you cut to get the first barracks, but the point stands. Like high ground, defender's advantage, your own double racks Reaper. There's no reason to scout. There's nothing your opponent can really do that would kill you. But what your opponent can do is do the same thing, just about, and then it comes down to good old-fashioned micro, which could either just bounce off of each other, no problem. Everyone's cool, man. Everyone's cool. Or someone could win in spectacular fashion. Byun actually charging ahead, taking a very aggressive stance right there. Seemed to get the benefit initially. It looks like Cure is a little scared of that first Reaper shot going to him. Plus, oh, well, it went to Cure anyway. What I was saying, plus his Reaper is arriving faster. So he also wanted to give it a chance to help out. So, but he won the Reaper war regardless. Now, Byun just losing that first Reaper, his 2-racks is now done. I mean, that's really it to it. Like, he can't be aggressive with it. Obviously, still having the defenses set up and Cure barely getting out of there is good. That's better than the alternative of losing your first and only Reaper. But yeah, we got to move on here, especially for Byun's sake. I mean, Cure is probably not too eager to really overinvest into the Reapers anyway, even though he will always have one more if they both do the exact same thing. That's still... Again, defender's advantage, high ground. Although Byun is really aggressive with his Reapers. That is a scary thing to do. Does successfully delay the command center. I want to say about 4 seconds. He was just about to 400 minerals when Byun's Reapers came in, and well, this is now a disaster. Well, to be honest, kind of feel like Byun deserved that. Byun either thought that Cure was like, oh, I won the 2-racks. I'm not really going to have a lot of Reapers anymore. It's cool, man. Or he thought that the Reapers would be aggressive, in which case playing that way with the Reapers anyway is just like a real, I mean, he just loses here. That's so many Reapers. The Cyclone is going to get beat by that many Reapers, honestly. Yeah, it's actually, yeah, GG's. I actually don't understand why Byun did his attack though. So he clearly loses the war. Loses the battle. But I don't think he really has to lose the war as of yet. Anyway, he gets a faster command center. I'm not exactly sure why. Because he delayed his... Oh, because he didn't go for a Hellion. Oh, there you go, obviously. Yeah, so he didn't go for a Hellion, so he's also missing, you know, an extra layer of defense. Faster than the Cyclone, anyway. And he plays so aggressively with his Reapers. That is such a dangerous thing to do, because say that the Reapers of Cure maybe did go across the map. I mean, that's still no gusta for Byun, in my opinion. You know, either the Hellion is on the way for Cure, which is very possible, or a Cyclone would eventually pop out. And who would deal more damage? 2 to 3 Reapers or 5 Reapers in a base trade? I wish I could explain Byun's thought process, other than just he thought he'd be able to slip in and slip out in time, but really, really, really risky play that I don't think was strictly necessary either. Because defensively, I think he does play fine. Maybe he has to give up his command center, not like give it up entirely, but maybe he has to have it stall out, knowing that 5 Reapers are on the field. Let me think. Maybe... So if he had 3 Reapers, he would have had 4. He would have had 4. Yeah, if he had kept every Reaper at home, he would have 4 Reapers. And then I think that would have at least bought time for the Cyclone to pop out. And then Cyclone plus 4 Reapers. The only question then I would suspect is that if the command center has to be canceled or not. Because I don't think they'd charge up to the main too courageously. I don't know. That's interesting. Have to ask Byun why he did that. Cure that overconfidence. Get on. An interesting game 1. Game 2 here is going to be on ley lines. Cure in the top right, Byun in the bottom left. Get a little more kitty in the front. He's a cute boy. Yeah, look at him. I'll look him up. He loves his catfish, man. I've never had a cat use something that was intended for the cat so often. You know, sometimes they'll use... I mean, I guess they use their cat towers, actually, pretty reliably. But other beds, never. But he, yeah, almost every cat wanted that bed, actually. Paulo wanted to get in it, Wicket tried it out, and then it just became Dimitri's, so... Anyway, no 2-racks opener this time for either player. I am going to guess that Byun figured he had to roll the dice to play out that game. That he was ultimately very afraid of the 5 going on 7 Reaper Hellion push. And even with his own defender's advantage, it would have been too tricky. And like, I could definitely see that. And I could definitely say that he has played far more 2-racks versus 2-racks games than I have. Now, it's not incredibly common, nor do I think it's like incredibly common as far as 2-racks versus 2-racks in bases heading towards each other. I don't think it's that common as well to have you lose the Reaper battle and then lose more Reapers. You know what I mean? Like the first Reaper dying and the person goes, okay, that was it. All right, well, cool. You know, and then they defend. They don't do what Byun does. But Byun is definitely going to have the most experience in that field as a not just aggressive, micro-oriented Terran in general, but he actually really does the 2-racks, I would say, quite frequently in this matchup, because it leads into a 2-1-1, which he also likes to play around with a decent amount, especially against some of the more defensive Terrans, which you would still label Cure as. In the great scheme of things, you know, we had our little trifecta of Terrans beating each other. You know, there was Byun, Cure, Maru, and then at one point there was TY. And then I was just like down to those 3. And then Gumiho's in there as like a wild card just to like come in and take out Maru every now and again. But anyway, but as far as the styles go, you know, Maru's the best at defending, Cure's very good at defending, and then Byun, so much more of the aggressor. 2-racks openers, proxy racks openers, 2-1-1s, and of course the 8-racks, which probably in this game, considering it's not going to end super soon, most likely. We might just get one of those 8-racks versus 3-star port builds. Although I feel like lately 8-racks has actually been more popular for every Terran to choose. So I'm not exactly, I don't want to say that with confidence. I don't feel like I've seen enough TVTs say that confidently. But it does feel like it's becoming more common. Anyway, we did have a 1-racks expand for Byun, whereas Cure went for the safer factory expand. It also could give him a little more aggression, but with 3 Reapers, 2 Hellions, that is a decent amount of aggression possibility. It doesn't really do very much when the bunkers are the natural and the high ground is presumably held by, you know, X amount of units, let's say. So even the Reaper throwing a grenade as these Reapers try and climb up, you know, is still good enough, because then the Hellions can't really help out. 3rd Reaper is here, though, and I think we should have an attempt to go into the main. Cyclone is about 5 seconds away from actually finishing. These 3 Reapers do find the SCV line completely open. That's already 2 SCVs killed. There's a 3rd one. Cyclone will get a lock on, and the Reaper of Byun did go down, but still helps trade out 2 Reapers. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that's exactly what Cure was looking for, you know, to actually make up for the factory expand. Another reason why I feel like the factory expand really has become so popular, I would say it is the majority of TVTs, although not to the extent like Blink is the majority of openers in PVT, like not that much, but I still think it maybe is like 50% of the openers, if like the other 50% is a mix of the 1-racks expand and a possible 2-racks and all that good stuff. But that aside, because you do usually find the damage to equalize the SCV count, and then you get a little bit of that confidence boost from being the one in control of the map. But at the end of the day, even if they don't find 3 SCVs, I feel like there's so much more that can happen in the mid-game. That's obviously a little more important. And for Byun's sake, even though he gets his SCV count almost leveled up, and that isn't almost, it's about 1.5, 1 SCV difference, He is able to just focus entirely on his build. You know, there's not really anything he has to be focusing elsewhere on, so there's no mistakes happening. Third CC does go down on location for Cure, though, and this goes back to having that factor expand generally, finding the damage necessary, plus having the map control. Like this, it's still a bit brazen to do this, I would say, because there could technically be a medevac coming out with 2 Cyclones ready to just pop that, but that is less likely than a Tech Lab and a Raven on the way for the, you know, defensive player thus far. And so that's really not going to be able to, at the very least, kill Command Center. I might stall it out if the auto turret came around, but not much more. So this is something that Byun might be aware of, but it really does suck. You know, the fact that he doesn't get his own 3rd Command Center on location is going to be making up for the 2 SCV difference, I believe, but then maybe even a little more. And Kira is going to be pretty happy with the state of game number 2 after already winning game 1. You know, pretty easy peasy. Double engineer bay on the way for Byun as Kira gets his barracks up. We do have Byun already a little ahead on the production department. And he is going to be a decent amount ahead on the engineering bays. Like, that's where his benefit is going to go. But 3 Ravens already completed for Cure. 2 tanks to 1. Moving across the map, knowing that there's nothing really heading his way. He's got a little bit of a scout up to the top side with a Howling, and then the rest of the scout goes down to these units. So Byun is going to be contained, at least for a little bit. And that's going to increase Cure's 3rd CC, following up, catching up to the SCV count. Scan comes down, sees that it is Bio, sees that Vikings have popped out as well, and that's a pretty good indicator they're going to attack you. If they're bothering to keep that reactor on and actually build Vikings and not use it for other things, like a barracks and then into medevacs, they're going to go for a little bit of a contain. 3 Ravens is absolutely no joke, but Byun does have a problem. He doesn't have stim. Or, wait, no, I said that wrong. Kira has a problem. He doesn't have stim. Byun might be a little contained in this choke, and there's only 2 Ravens to 3, but they are going to come in at a pretty much the exact right angle. Interference Baycheck plus auto turrets do come down. All the Ravens of Kira getting blasted, and this is going to be a win for Byun. Yeah, for sure. The tanks are coming out unlocked, but they only get 1 shot each, and that's not going to be good enough. Vikings landing a little too late, and Byun is just going to have to accept that, and I think he'd be happy to accept that. 3 tanks still alive, a medevac. I mean, the Marines all died, basically, but that is A-okay. That is what he's already producing off of 2 reactors. So this is something that he is going to be able to rebuild, and then they're both matching each other's energy on the starport and the factory. So Cure wanted that contain to do a little bit more. You know, either last a little bit longer or maybe trade out the tanks at the very least. And if he traded out the tanks, this is probably fair game. Cure now has to defend a 3rd CC, which has given him that slight SCV lead. But now he is behind in the army supply, or he's behind in positioning is actually his main problem at this point. And he still does not have combat shields, whereas, of course, Byun, faster on the stim, faster on the combat shields. Kira has to be very careful with how he approaches this. Medevac goes into the main base. Interesting combination of units, but just enough, because Kira doesn't have a lot to deal with. He doesn't have a lot of units, and they're also poorly upgraded again without combat shields, so mano a mano, they're just going to be straight up worse. I mean, this is going to be a good enough tactic. The 3rd CC having been lifted and sent away has already been worth the counterattack, and then 8 SCVs dying in the main base as well. Kira's going to send the command center on over to the right side, but you might not get a lot of time to mine from it. His Marines are getting slaughtered. The Liberator only gets 1 shot by the looks of things, and the tanks cannot deal even the minimum number of Marines coming through. 2nd Liberator is going to find some success, and this 1 tank was just barely saved. I mean, in the main base, we still, again, have 2 Marines. That's it, 2 Marines. But still, nothing to defend against that. 4 SCVs going down, 5, 6, 7 plus. Cure also not building SCVs to replace those, as his macro is actually just straight up slipping. That is currently the problem. And Byun is getting farther and farther ahead, obviously landing his 3rd CC, grabbing his 4th command center as well. Double drops going to the main base. There are some Marines. But again, no combat shields, so they're still good enough to take out the unloading units, and maybe even a little bit more. That medevac, yeah, will go down. That held the tank. Cure barely hanging in here, and it is barely. He lost 17 SCVs and then wasn't replacing them for probably a good minute right there. And I checked his minerals. He was banking about 200, so it wasn't that. I mean, if he was intending to not produce SCVs, he still wasn't using all of his production facilities. Possibly because, right, he doesn't have reactors. He didn't have gas to build the medevacs. Like that, I think that probably was intentional in a way that you survive the current attack, but it just kind of ended up not working the way you would want because you didn't have the production to actually use all your bank. As little as it was. But at that moment, really hurting Cure, obviously for a lot of reasons, but then he maybe could have been at 60 SCVs if he'd been replacing them the entire time. And he's still, instead he's down 20. But even if he was okay on the SCVs, let's say, he still would be so far behind in a lot of departments. He's still so far behind in 2-2-1. That fourth base, I mean, maybe he could get it canceled and lifted. This game's not entirely over yet, but it is up to Byun to make the blunder. Byun seems pretty well set up. He's got 5 racks with reactors, double factory now finished. Again, those 2-2 upgrades are going to kick in, and he's got, well, actually a good number of Marines, equal number of Marines for Cure. Wow, good decision. Command center goes down in the blink of an eye. The Marines pulled back a little too far. The tank number wasn't high enough. Byun might have gotten up to 2 factories much faster than Cure did, but his actual tank count was still reeling from the counter actually being destroyed. Cure takes advantage of it, and that 4th CC being sniped really gives Cure a lot of confidence bringing this game back, but the upgrades are still a big issue. Equal army supply, almost equal number of Marines, but 2-2 versus 1-1. That is going to be huge. And Cure's tank count, it's okay. I think it would cover the upgrade difference if it was perfect. Byun is clearly on the ropes a little bit, struggling to defend, knowing that he's got a bit of a problem, but knowing also that he has those 2-2 upgrades, he certainly will be able to stand his ground here. Should he see a tank a little alone, or the Marines a little far away? I mean, there's not much that his Marines will actually do before Byun's Marines come and punishes. Viking popped out, going to kill the Liberator. Medevac's going to the main base. Byun saw it respond with his own triple medevac. I think what happened there is that Cure thought the Vikings would go track this, and so he sent his Liberator back in, but that did not work, and now his medevacs are dying as well. One goes down, second one barely not. The Cure still does not have a 4th command center. And he still doesn't have his extra 2 reactors. No second factory. Not quite on 2-2 either, although making sure to afford that +3 attack. Byun really on point, by the way, on these upgrades, something that sometimes he has a problem with. Getting their armor as well, but now he's on point, so he's going to keep maybe 20-second lead in the upgrades, if Cure can even afford +3 armor. I don't even think he can. Interesting decision going on right now for Cure as he tries to hold the middle of the map, not let Byun get too far ahead. But Byun has got a second attack up his sleeve here. He's actually going to push to the middle to a certain degree, but double medevac's going to the main base. That's a big problem. But the interesting decision was actually to lift off the tech lab. I mean, it makes sense. You don't need the tech lab anymore for your barracks. It's just not something I think you see a lot of people bother to do unless they were really counting their pennies. Unfortunately, Cure is going to be even more broke as the SCVs in the main base are going to go down. Maybe even the engineering base, which would put him so far behind those 3-3 upgrades. At least they get refunded, I suppose. But that's all I can say about that. That's still a huge loss. Byun can still win with a 3-3 timing if he doesn't somehow win before then. And Cure, only just now grabbing at 4th command center, is finishing up, but 2 medevacs threaten that as well. Byun is also only on 3 CC. I mean, he actually never replaced the 4th command center. Yes, he did. He did finally going into the main base, but has yet to actually shift it on over. Cure, the upgrades are such a big problem, though. The Cure is hanging in there. Gets one of the medevacs, it's the other one very, very low. Byun long distance mining. If Cure sends his own medevac out, that could be a very good opportunity for him. He's managed to finally get his 5 barracks with reactors. He's actually capable of producing more than his opponent. And then the 2 factories as well is very important. He might have also, I mean, I think 2 factories as the game goes on for TVT is just necessary. Of course it is. But it also is, like, if Byun is usually like Byun, right? He's playing like Byun. Then he will almost always go for base trades given the opportunity. I mean, not necessarily forcing it because, you know, that's how he is. But if he's ever on the ropes, he is the one Terran you can depend on to go for a base trade. And having double factories pumping out tanks can help. And we'll even have a tank just waiting in the main base, knowing that something's going to be headed his way. Here goes for an orbital at his 4th base, but more importantly, he is unsieged in the middle of the map. Loses 3 tanks right off the bat. And again, fortunately, has the 2 factory production. But yeah, his 4th orbital is actually very vulnerable. His 3rd base also vulnerable. Cure knows that something is heading up to the top side. He goes and defends that pretty nicely. But on the bottom right, he has to respond quickly. 3-3 is done for Byun. And Byun just took out yet another tank. Cure still on 6, though. If they're perfectly positioned, then that will do the trick. It is difficult to have them constantly in perfect position, though. Byun did not send his full army out to that right side. He only sent a couple of Marines. He has the rest of his army actually kind of balling up to the left side. He's actually left so many tanks defensively. I mean, his tank count has really grown. 12 tanks are available, and they are all making sure to defend these bases. Actually, kind of it's the way this game is played out to have Cure in the more desperate position and the more often Marine-based position. As you can see, having trouble to even afford that second tank. But it is kind of funny seeing Byun, you know, he doesn't go for the chaotic game that maybe he could have gone for, trying to force a base trade. No, he actually says, like, I'm going to settle things down. I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to play it wise. Just a couple of drops here and there. A little bit of movement on the map, obviously. But I am not going to try and just full send it and hope that I win the game. He is actually playing very cautiously. Drop for Cure heading into the main base, but a drop for Byun actually hit Cure's main base and kills all the leftover SCVs. And no, not again, not again. The SCVs are dead. They can't go for the repair. That's +3 attack going down. And +3 armor will finish, but it's still such a drastic upgrade difference. Marine versus Marine battles. It really just reduces the options that Cure has. Whenever you see those tanks are a little too far away, you go in, you stim in with your Marines. The idea is, you know, that would have been an opportunity for you. The Marines are a little late to reacting. Their tanks aren't involved. Go for it. But when you have an upgrade deficit in Marine versus Marine battles, you actually are constantly second-guessing those opportunities. Medevac drop on the main still being problematic. Main base had lifted, now going over to provide a 5th, both of them on equal SCV counts. +3 armor finally going to finish up, and he did build a second engineering bay, but yeah, it's not even strictly necessary. Scan ahead reveals unsieged tanks, and really not all that many Marines. Injured medevacs as well, but this one tank has been on the high ground for, I want to say, something like 5 minutes. Again, Byun playing very cautiously. Tanks every which way that we look, covering all of the choke points, all of the entry points as well. There's the 3-3 really impacting this. I mean, he might have had more Marines too. More medevacs, and the Vikings killing his opponent's medevacs. That might have been a win no matter what. But the missing +3 attack also contributed. Drop on the main base was finally cleared up. Byun now no longer dealing with anything on his side of the map. Cure ditto, though. Cure has been able to mine from 4 orbitals this entire time. He's going to lift his own natural to take a 5th to the bottom right, where I guess he's also focusing his attack, so that makes sense. Tank's a little unguarded. Cure decides to go for it. His own tank siege up. Not particularly close to the command center, but maybe the Marines will do the trick anyway. He's going to lift and leave, making sure they get the heck out of there. Reminder, that is the main base of Byun, so he still is only on 4 command centers, 3 orbitals as well. Cure, by going for a 4th orbital, not only provided himself more mules. Yeah, I thought I miscounted for 1 second, but there you go. But he's also provided himself more scans, which has no doubt helped as well. Cure is a little higher in supply, but missing that +3 attack. I mean, beating a dead horse here, but it's still so important. Tries to go for a quad drop into the main base, but a good number of Marines are waiting. Almost get the medevac with 2 tanks. Scans, reveals a couple of tanks maybe unguarded. No, that's not the case. Boost is going to be available to exit. It's going to be used to drop, of course, but now he's just going to exit. And he finds a little corner, stopping this 5th command center from actually mining, while his own 5th gets a couple of mules on it, gets a couple of SCVs. Cure might lose this chunk of army, though. I mean, it just requires a bit of a drop, I would say. Loses another tank up to the top side, and there you go. Byun's going to collapse in on this. Cure is going to try and go for an attack up to the top left. That is where the planetary is. 2 tanks also guarding it. Sensor tower, no, 3 tanks, excuse me. This is something that Cure could technically try to all in on, and he is going to go for it. He knows the army is out of position. He didn't quite know how many tanks were prepared, but he does go for it. But it is going to take some time, and it is going to take some losses as well. That wasn't the blitz, the freebie that you could just take and then leave. And while Byun's army was out of position, now it is Cure's time to be out of position. It's defenseless orbital, no tanks in sight. This one tank not enough to actually stop it from dying. Might want to lift it. He's going to try and hold it. He still doesn't have that +3 attack. SCV's hardly helping out. This line of tanks, I think, was more than Cure was expecting as well. The rest of the army is coming in, but it's over stim, so a lot of them getting one shot at this point, too. It is going to be enough, and he's going to take the opportunity to kill all of the tanks, but he lost a lot of Marines in the process, and once again, Byun finding Cure out of position. Cure wants to defend this bottom right side base, is going to be so far away from defending this 3rd or 4th or whatever the hell it was, and so many SCVs are going to die as well. Cure just simply could not keep up with everything that Byun had. He has been lost on the map, constantly running around, trying to react to things, rather than trying to preemptively defend things. Not terribly surprising the way that this game started out to have Cure now almost certainly losing. I mean, down 70 supply. But it actually did not look too bad for him for a while. At the end of the day, it wasn't really the 3-3 that ended up killing him either. I mean, I think it absolutely contributed to him killing him. Again, some of these battles should have gone better for him, perhaps. Obviously, like those moments I was talking about where you decide to go in and then you say, oh, never mind. Like, those all contributed. But at the end of the day, it was a lot of Byun finding Cure mispositioned. And Cure not able to do the same to his opponents. That's it. Byun will take game 2. GG's. Thanks, Hyacin. Saw Pig at a tier list for EWC. We do... I am going to be making... I mean, I don't call them tier lists. I don't use, like, tier maker or anything like that. But I will have a predictions video out, so... Hops. Game 3 is going to be on Ultra Love. Bottom left, Kier. Top right, Byun. Kier really put up a fight. I mean, he was in desperate straits for a while there. I want to say that showed a little bit of maturity, as we see an SCV leaving, from Byun. But obviously he's had a lot of time to practice TVT and a lot of opportunities being in the region that he is. And I don't really necessarily say that that's always like the best thing or that he's always going to do. I think at the end of the day, Byun, his core character doesn't change very much. He is going to be aggressive, case in point. He's going to be micro-intensive. And he is going to, roll the dice a little bit more than the other Terrans out there. But last game, calming things down, only, using his Marine squad to really run around and leaving a good amount of tanks at home. I mean, I think that is a slightly different way than you can kind of predict Byun to play. Like I was saying, in the game, if Cure was thinking, okay, this guy's on the ropes, it's my time to shine, even though I'm down in my upgrades and my economy has just been hurt, like I need to go, go, go. Byun might go for a base trade. Like, I see those Marines moving, I see that tank number growing, I'm like, And if you expected that, you'd be wrong, wouldn't you? Oh, this is not good for Byun, though. Yeah, okay, well. Talked about it in the first game. If you proxy 2 racks, and your opponent 2 racks is at home, the 2 racks at home wins. It's a great defensive build. This is why you don't have to scout with it. Even the factory expansion, you don't technically have to scout for it either, but this is going to be even better. The only case in which this loses is if Cure is so shocked by a Reaper the halfway across the map already that he has a micro. And like I predicted as well, I mean, you don't get the... Technically, you get the Reaper faster. Technically. But, like, not enough to make up for defender's advantage. So, yeah, that's no good for Byun. Well, yeah, Kiri's gonna check. Doesn't see it as close as it could be. But this is usually where you're gonna go ahead and see a 2 racks proxy. Maybe over here, maybe over there. First Reaper needs to be protected. Second Reaper is out. Who's gonna win the micro battle? It is going to be Kier. Although very, very technically, if Byun saves this Reaper, and that was a nice grenade. Oh, he's gonna save it. He's gonna do one better. He's gonna kill Kier's Reaper. Hey-hoo. I was thinking if Byun just saves the Reaper, he still has a chance, but he actually killed Kier's. What a grenade that was. To not only hit the Reaper obviously helps, but then to have Kier's Reaper have to then go behind the Reaper of his opponent, that is such a drastic difference. And now it's 2 Reaper versus 3, and Byun is going to win with a proxy 2 racks. Yes, yeah, Cure, he's gonna at least have to pull SCVs. So maybe winning is a bit much of a stretch, but he is going to find damage with it, which then opens up the possibility of obviously him catching up on the economy that he gave up to do this out to Iraqs, as well as, you know, some of the technology to an extent. He's going to be behind on the Hellion, straight up, yeah, but maybe he doesn't go for a Hellion anyway. Maybe he just adds Tech Lab, goes for Cyclone. Command centers are on the way for both parties, but since Byun won the micro battle, he gets to put his on location. So that does give him the lead. Eventually, I should say. Eventually. Right now we have Cure holding on to the 2 SCV lead, which we'll have for a while yet. I don't know if he'll skip SCV production, knowing his opponent probably is getting his command center on location. So even though, yes, you're oversaturating, it just, you're going to transfer soon enough. Portability, thank you for the 72 months, as well as Bunger. Thank you for that gifted sub. So the Reapers did not win the game, although it was a little harrowing. They did not win the game. And are they going to win it here? 2 Hellions you'd think would be enough with a choke to help out. A couple of Marine shots as well, and that will be enough. Yeah, a bit, wow. I'm sure Cure, like, he knew this was a possibility, which is why he put his units there. But to have Byun actually take the fight probably shocked him at some point. You know, he's probably like, oh. Those emotions very quickly in his face. But he does defend the Reapers, which actually would... Wait a minute. Wait, what? Oh! I totally missed that! I totally missed that! 2 Reapers secure. I was wondering where the Reapers were. And then I just forgot that they existed. The 2 Reapers! Wah! Oh, maybe that's why Byun stuck around, too. Oh, wow, that actually changes it so much. So this kills 6 SCVs. And Cure defended his home base. I mean, that just put Cure in a dominant position. Wow. It is kind of funny. It's kind of funny thinking of the first game and how in some ways this is mirroring it. And we get to see that interesting opener, the slight difference of the proxy, right? And how that works. But then we also see someone who does risk something to send the Reapers across the map and is heavily rewarded for it. It was a different scenario than the first game, of which Byun literally had no other defenses aside from those Reapers, but nonetheless, Cure actually sending 2 Reapers when he knows that, like, what was it, like 7 Reapers were out there somewhere? I mean, it's a bit ballsy. It is. But it worked out. Arnold Jordan, thank you for the gifted sub. So, we have ourselves a very good economic situation for Cure, but he needs to hold on to it. He does drop a Cyclone into his opponents, but fortunately no double lock-on. And actually, his second Cyclone got a lock-on on the medevac, I believe is what happened there. And so that ends up favoring Cure a lot as well. Byun's going to have some time to repair that medevac. And I think, well, he has a 3rd Cyclone. It's just not in position. He doesn't know if it's going to be a drop or an attack on the front lines. It isn't an attack on the front lines. At least trade out the Cyclones, though. Cure is seemingly happy with his position. Doesn't want to give it up. He is going to stick around in the high ground. Medevac is in trouble thanks to the Viking, but the Viking was in trouble thanks to the Cyclone. Medevac still goes down because Byun came at him with more Cyclones than perhaps anticipated. 3 Cyclones were built in that game, where very, very often Terran players will stay on 2, right? So that might have been a little bit of a surprise there for Cure. Because imagine... I said imagine 1 less Cyclone, but then that would have been 1 faster tank. Yeah. But a tank is so much more microable against, right? Like, he might not have lost his medevac, his own Cyclone might not have died in some alternative universe, and he would have been playing around with the medevac still running around if he had been able to, obviously, kill Byun's second Cyclone. But since he went for a 3rd, he once again has a double drop of Cyclones ready to go. Vikings have been produced by Cure. We got ourselves a 3rd command center for a boy in blue as well. Obviously, they both went 2 racks. So there could have been some emphasis on a legitimate 2-on-1. That would have made the game, I think, very, very funky, though. And this is something that both players did not opt for. 2 Cyclones drop out. 2 Cyclones lock onto a Viking. And that Viking is 100% dead. This is more troublesome than you would hope. But then again, Byun might be losing his medevac no matter what. SCV is going for the surround, and they grab it. The Citizen's Arrest is good, and the medevac is dead. Byun trying to find units out of position, however, attacking on the front lines. Great idea, but Cure does have at least 1 tank here. He is going to wisely unsiege it, seeing that all unfold before his eyes. He tried to do it fast enough, not quite. Second tank also in danger. Uh-oh. Byun might have taken quite the slapping of a SCV count, but he's actually slapping back with the army trades. 2 tanks going down right there puts Kira into a very delicate position. Not something that I think he takes catastrophic damage to, but it is a delicate position. It's something that Byun really needs to find a lot of damage with, though. His 3rd CC only just now starting, although it is on location. He's already found the damage. He already killed 2 tanks. That reduces a counterattack opportunity. He's already killed 5 SCVs, and we do have, once again, Kira opting to not build SCVs, but his production isn't quite set up yet, so this is just him trying to organize his thoughts in his brain at this point, honestly. I do like this from Byun, by the way. He has added on a second factory. He's actually going to go into mech. And when you figure that your stim and combat shields is so much later than your opponent, then that is usually the best option. Command Center now getting very injured, forcing a lot of repair. Liberator is going to get something one way or another. It's going to get the SCVs or a tank. Kira picked up a double drop, however, and that was a true fear of anyone who was going into bio. It was also going to be going faster into medevacs as you're going mech. Oh, this was it. This was what Kira needed to do. He's going to hold on to his base back at home, most likely, but he just slaughtered 30-plus SCVs. He's going to go after the tank as well, and this double drop just won Kira the game. It was very dicey. The same units that we see here used to pull the boys and to try and break out of this would have been ugly. It would have been a very ugly game. Instead, sends him across the map, finds Byun without many units at all. And as I said, effectively has ended the game. Kira just needs to hold on to a main base. He still has his natural orbital. He still has his 3rd orbital. He still has some production. Combat shields will also finish very shortly. I mean, it's obviously worth playing out for Byun. There's a Liberator actually over here. But it's unfortunately not going to end in his victory. Worst case scenario, Kira could even evacuate, like if that was really that scary of a push on the front lines. But it was becoming less and less scary by the second. GG's, Kira, the 2-1. I stand. Thank you very much for the 5. Get the subs. That was a fun little TVT. People probably want to watch some SOS, right? SOS! God damn it. I'm not even gonna bother. You just gotta have to memorize that's SOS, guys. In the top right, we do have SOS playing on a barcode. In the bottom left, we do have Hero playing on a ZAM. I imagine people play on a barcode because it's like the last account they played on, so they're already logged in. Or they haven't played on their main account in a while, or their named account in a while, and their settings might be off. I don't know, but it's such a small thing that can lead to such frustration. Because I think as commentators, we're obviously not going to easily forget, you know, this is SOS. But the amount of people who then come in to your stream and who are like, who's the barcode, who's the barcode, who's the barcode? You know, it's immeasurable. It's also understandable, you know? But it's a lot. And then they get mad at you for not bothering to put on the nameplate, and it's just like, if SOS had just picked this freaking name. Come on. It's not really my fault. Anyway. The replay pack was released today. It's available for the Marine tier, $10 a month, I believe. You can buy it for a month and immediately cancel it, and you still get the replay pack. Anyway, yeah, Captain here. So SOS versus Hero. SOS, he actually has shown some really decent PvP. I hesitate to call it super strong because I haven't seen it enough to say that. But I do feel like if we're watching his PvP, I think it's quite good. I think it's good. It also sometimes is a little more old school, which is kind of fun. And, you know, there's the occasional wackiness that you would come to expect from SOS. But Hero is top 2 best PvP in the world. I have to check the stats on that. I have to check the numbers. But that's what I'm going to go ahead and throw out there because he commonly takes down max packs. As far as his battles versus Classic, I'm not sure, honestly. But yeah, it just, I guess PvP, it's a whole triangle, isn't it? You know, this person beats this person, that beats this person, and that person can beat the first person. I don't know. But Hero is one of the world's best. And so while SOS's PvP can generally look pretty good, I will give this to Hero. We have that Proxy Pylon, which SOS has scouted that it was going to be something in Proxy. Doesn't know that it is a Robo. SOS actually got a Zealot as well, which is an interesting choice. We had something that we haven't seen from him before. I think he did this last time it was Proxy, and I cast him. Hallucination consistently being thrown out thanks to the Zealot Sentry opener off of just this single gateway. So obviously, you're going to have to try and defend the Nexus. Hero opted for a couple of Adepts to start things off. Saw that it wasn't, excuse me, a 2 gates, and is hoping to cause some chaos somewhere. SOS is going to get the shield battery 9 times out of 10. But there is that one time. And then honestly, 4 Adepts and 2 Sentries if they're away from the Guardian Shield. Sentry has to be a little careful. War Prism is on the way, and the Adepts will then be able to fly wherever the hell they want. Into the main base, then into the natural, then in the main base, then into the natural. And we just don't have a lot of DPS coming out from SOS at this point because he just doesn't have a lot of units. Stargate is just finished. He's building a shield battery in the main. He is prepared to defend against what he is not sure is a Proxy Robo, but very possibly could have been. And it is going to be that fast Warp Prism style as well. Probe's already going down, but you can't afford quite a few losses when you have a natural Nexus and your opponent does not. One Adept already fell. Second Adept barely going to live. All you need is 2 to one-shot these probes, though, even through the shield battery. Good focus fire there from SOS, but the Warp Prism's looking to cause some trouble. Can't really kill that particularly fast. Guardian Shield to help out is always a nice touch, but the 3rd Adept even in here. Sorry, 3rd and 4th Adept. So we got 2 opportunities to one-shot the probes, and that's 10 probes killed. That puts SOS down about 9 probes. He could still technically make up for that. But that, yeah, well, can he though? Just because the Nexus isn't done for Hero, but Hero's even been oversaturating. So he's going to be able to transfer a good amount of probes. The one thing I will say is that the Warp Prism dies. Okay, first of all, the Warp Prism's dead and the Adepts are going to die shortly after. Is that Hero will not have a lot of army supply. And it's not like his armor supply will be particularly good either. It'll all be basic gateway units. But he did kill 16 probes. And what more can SOS really muster? Even if he knows the counterattack is the only thing he can really do. Observer was built alongside a second Observer, actually, and then an Immortal. So that Robo has had plenty of time. 1 Immortal plus whatever you can get out of 2 gateways. Probably going to be enough for the shield battery, which is being built. The Observer tracks the army. I mean, SOS, he's not strictly all-inning. But he doesn't really have the production to do a legitimate all-in anyway, I would say. I mean, yeah, 2 gateways to Stargate. The point is, he does have to try and do something. He does have to try and at least counterattack and force Hero to build whatever he needs, but it's just so easy for Hero to build whatever he needs. This is not a very large army. It's got some potential in the force fields, which I think we're going to see here. There you go. 1 Stalker, push to the front. Shield battery is going to save that life, and the Immortal is going to find a Stalker on the right side. A Void Ray is all really that SOS has got here. And we are still a little shy in the Stalkers, becoming more and more shy, actually, as 1 Stalker does finally go down, but 2 more get warped in. Now we're going to focus fire the Void Ray, and that is it. If he's not going to break him right then and there, he's still going to be behind by 13 workers, and he's going to get counterattacked immediately after that. So the Adepts did the job. GG's. So Hero's now up 1, going on a Tokamak. Top right, it is SOS. Bottom left, it is Hero. Do I feel like Starry tastes different than the old Sierra Mist? You know how often I've had conversations with people where we're like, what was Starry? What was it? Where did that come from? What did it used to be? What was the thing that it used to be called? And I have no idea, to be honest. It's like a Pepsi product, and never really into Pepsi products, actually. They lost the trademark. That's where they had to do it. Interesting. But still, I mean, it just, it's an inferior Sprite. Actually, I don't think I have a strong opinion on that one. I do have a strong opinion on bees, though, which is that they're adorable. Honeybees are adorable. And since moving to Colorado, you're just not surrounded by nearly as much green. Even though, you know, they plant some trees, and especially in a new development where trees haven't had, 20 years to actually grow. And we have ourselves a little garden, but nothing compares to... We basically had like a mini forest, enough of a woodland area that you didn't really walk through it to get to the highway that was behind our house. And it was full of ticks. But anyway, yeah, now we don't have that. And so I haven't heard a honeybee in so long, actually. I used to be able to walk through the neighborhood, and there'd be like just patches and patches and patches where like honeybees would congregate, and I thought it was so beautiful. And now what do we get? What do we get in Colorado? We got hornets. We got hornets building a nest on our lamp of our porch lamp, like right outside the door. It's great. We do have a PvP, and PvP does get heated pretty quickly, so let's talk about it. SOS once again going for the 1 gateway expand with a Zealot popping out. Hero going for 2 gateways and a proxy pylon. Something that SOS knows is, again, in proxy, but he doesn't know if it's going to be used or not. Won't be able to find it. 2 stalkers this time around, though, so we are going to get differences. And with the pylon where it is and also the probe gone, we know that it wasn't anything proxied. Most likely it isn't either. As SOS sees the probe here. I mean, there could be a second probe. But his probe has been in the main for a while, so they would have to send that up very early. And actually, the players have talked about counting probes that early. So that this is not an impossible task for SOS to kind of figure out. But, I mean, you'd have to, like, take into account, like, where the proxy was. Because if it's far enough away or close enough away to also build a building. And then, how long is the map distance? I mean, it'd be tough for SOS to determine that it is not an attack. Hallucination, fortunately, does that for him. And he still will opt for the same opener, which I think Hero was perhaps anticipating to an extent. Another Sentry opener. The Zealot was canceled. But 2 Sentries, still not that much DPS. Thankfully, the shield battery does finish. And the 2 Stalkers were maybe hoping to kill the Sentry. That might have been possible. Honestly, if they had killed the shield battery, this still would have been very problematic. And that shield battery is still technically targetable, but as soon as you target it, the force fields will go down. In fact, there's the force fields right now. Able to collect 1 stalker, just barely. You're going to use all of your force field energy for it, to be fair, but the recharge is available on, well, eventually a Nexus anyway. 3 Sentries now and a stalker. That's going to be good enough. That will be good enough. Probes are actually being pulled into this. I mean, he knows that it is a Nexus on location for Hero, but it is still dicey. He just lost all of his Sentries. Stalker is the only thing that remains. Only 1 gateway, so only 1 warp in. This Stalker is also in trouble. The shield battery is out of juice. No recharge available. 2 Sentries and a Guardian shield. I mean, but the probes are fairly effective against this. This is where, once again, the workers get to shine in these super, super low unit battles. Hello? Sentry? Hello? Help? Hello? Hello? There we go. 2 probes go down. And that could have been way worse. At the end of the day, you traded out almost your equivalent army, right? Yeah, actually maybe a little worse. A little worse for Hero. And you only killed 2 probes, but the opponent's Nexus was faster. The point is, SOS, like, he makes sure not to let this snowball, and that is the most important thing. That is 100% the most important thing. This actually could have snowballed. It might have looked comical. That might have looked like, well, this is just 3 units and then 3 units and then 3 units. Like, what are they going to really do? But that absolutely could have snowballed. And if the proxy pylon was actually more of a proxy pylon, I keep saying proxy, it's just a hidden one. If it was actually proxy, that is also going to alarm the defender a lot. And honestly, if it wasn't proxy, let's say the pylon was here and it wasn't found, I do wonder if Hero would have won. It is a very, very tight battle and one that can snowball out of control. But instead, it's kind of a wash. Hero manages to get a probe ahead by the looks of things, but SOS is also prioritizing that third Nexus. He is already saturated on the mineral count, so that makes sense. Whereas Hero, a little oversaturated at this point, gets his own third, about 20-30 seconds behind. Warp Prism was built for Hero. Clearly, Alhug has a Warp Prism, something that I'm not sure SOS has actually been able to scout. Yeah, so he's been using his Sentry Energy to defend, clearly. So he didn't know there was a Robo. This Warp Prism comes in as a bit of a surprise, and with that surprise, does 5 probes worth of damage. It's not too bad. I like how this Adept was left behind for no reason. This Warp Prism driver's name is Mengsk. Just like, can you get to die. Yeah, I guess we here just literally didn't see it, or maybe thought it wouldn't be seen itself? I'm not sure on that one. Anyway, they both have Robos, which means SOS also has an Observer. Takes care of his opponents where Hero can react, and finally gets that full scout that he's been missing from all the defense going down. So obviously the Robo, but then do you see the Twilight Council? Do you see the Forge in particular? How many gateways do they already have? How many things don't they have? And then are they hiding a dark shrine somewhere, you know? All things you want to be trying to figure out with this hallucination. But it is going to be Resonating Glaives. Actually, for both players. So that's okay, interesting. This is the first Adepts versus Adept game I've seen. In a while. I want to say, yeah. We've definitely seen a lot more Resonating Glaive builds and follow-ups in the last year or something like that, but it just doesn't usually happen that both of them do the exact same thing. And then there was a period of time back in, I want to say, 2017, in which Adept versus Adept was actually the meta. But, yeah. Two probes go down to SOS's own Adept harassment. Nothing really to write home about. They're talking about a 4-worker lead, though, for Hero, so I'm not exactly sure how that happened. I guess Adepts who are in SOS's base. Okay. And Hero actually really snowballing ahead on the upgrades, too. Such a faster forward, already giving him +1 attack. As now he's going to have a +1 armor, too. I mean, if he hits this with +1 armor, he will have a 2-upgrade lead, Adept versus Adept. I have forgotten at this point in time if +2 actually affects Adept's kill shots on each other, because that used to be the most important thing to know. Hold on, we got an attack here. The upgrade is done for Hero. Not the armor, though, but it's still an upgrade lead, and that was not what SOS was hoping for. Not at all. Even these Adepts trying to transfer on over to the natural don't get anywhere close to the probes, so they are not very useful. And SOS is in a load of trouble. Defending his third Nexus is going to be extremely difficult when he has the exact same army, but at a 2-upgrade deficit. I guess the only good news here for SOS is that he does have 2 extra gateways. And if you can afford it, then more power to you. 3 Immortals versus 2 Sentries to 2, just some more Adepts being warped in for both sides. It's those upgrades that I'm really thinking about. Oh, that +1 attack's almost close. Oh, it's so close to finishing. At least 1 upgrade deficit instead of 2 upgrade deficit, right? And he will be able to get it, but he's still going to be behind on the armor. Nexus is now in trouble as mass force fields go down. Nothing to break them. It looks like SOS is going to try and kind of push his way through. The force field energy is limited after all, and he will be actually adding his own force field to the mix. But not quite enough to stop the Nexus from being shot at. I guess maybe it was barely enough. The Nexus still in a little bit of trouble, but SOS in general in a bit of trouble. Is actually getting a lot of Adept damage on the other side of the map. He's got 3 Adepts getting 7 probes, and he does hold defensively back at home, just extending the period of time which that battle really took to actually happen. I mean, it arguably kind of didn't. It just was a lot of force fielding away from each other, and then Adepts shading around each other as well. Adepts going to the main base. Immortals catch a pylon powering 2 gateways, and nothing to kill Warp Prisms, by the way, so this will always be an annoyance. Adepts hoping to catch up on the probe kills that SOS was able to do to Hero, but not yet so able to. Immortals even having trouble, finally getting a couple of their own shots, but it is going to still be a 4-worker lead for Hero at the end of the day. Despite losing more probes than his opponent, I suppose he was rebuilding them. Or I guess just had always been a little higher on the probe count, so this actually was more equalizing things. 2 Immortals still going after pylons, and while they aren't depowering anything at a particularly crucial moment, these are pylons that are having to be replaced, and at the end of the day, that's 300, 400, 500 minerals. Still something that SOS is able to find in his pocket. He does build a Nexus, whereas Hero has yet to add on a 4th base himself. Now, Hero did add on a couple other things, though. +2 attack, as well as Blink halfway done. He is going to once again have that 2 upgrade lead. He's also going to have Blink to finally take care of this Warp Prism, which, by the way, yeah, a second Warp Prism was made. I was like, that Warp Prism's awfully healthy. What happened? And he made a second Warp Prism. Army supplies slightly favoring SOS. Army types is very interesting. Adepts don't kill Stalkers very fast, but the same is true the opposite way. But, you know, Blink Stalkers cannot, you know, they're more microable. Oh, speaking of microable, oh, the Warp Prism goes down. SOS had no idea his opponent was attacking him. Ditto on the side of Hero, who does decide to recall. Not going to play around with Benchel Base Trade. This is a Sentry off the bat. Second Sentry providing the Guardian Shield to help out. Shield Battery also getting recharged. An Immortal will just never die. The Adepts are taking so long to kill it. And again, same in the inverse, but it's just... it's the battle that never ends. And it does eventually end in Hero's favor. Those upgrades really adding a lot. Defender's advantage really kicking in as well. And the Warp Prism find was fantastic. Reinforcements getting caught by the looks of things as once again, SOS eyes just straight up probe damage. He's trying his best. He has taken a 8-worker lead. And the Warp Prism will find its way into a corner again. So that'll continue to be an annoyance. Oh my god, while this was happening, SOS only took a 4th base. He also took a 5th base. Is that a preemptive base trade? It might be a preemptive base trade Nexus. Because that's insane to do it. Like, there's no... If it was like, this is a totally normal game and I'm just going to take the 4th base nice and easy, you'd have saturated it before taking a 5th. What is it, this 5th Nexus? Oh my good lord. Hero decides that Stalker numbers aren't going to grow fast enough for his liking. He's already at 21, actually, so it's more just providing that extra layer on the front lines with his own mass warping of Adept. Still has 1 upgrade lead, and now going to find that 4th Nexus. Find some probes transferring too. So that might have been a tip, but then it's not really a priority to kill that Nexus. It's a priority to kill SOS, who is down 60 overall supply, basically all in army. In fact, all in army, literally. And that is going to be a victory for Hero after a very interesting game. I haven't seen one like it. Even back when Adept versus Adept was the most common thing, I'm serious when I say mass Adept versus mass Adept. In 2017, you just didn't ever make not Adept, and it was crazy and it was stupid. And a meta that evolved from, first of all, Adepts having different attack speed? Is that what it was? I fucking forget. It's been so long. Adepts have had changes. But then also Adepts were like the most chaotic thing in PvP when Legacy of the Void was released, because suddenly you had this thing that could bypass any like units or force field, and people were like, I don't know how to deal with this. This is crazy. And then people figured out how to wall, and that was great. But then Adept versus Adept took over, and like I was saying, I don't know if +2 attack actually does change the kill shot count. Someone could do the math if they're very interested in it. But that was the best upgrade to get. That's what everyone shot for in PvP, was because they would do, they would take 1 less shot to kill an Adept of their opponent. It might still be the case, and that might have technically affected that last battle, but not to a particularly important point. It was very clearly Hero's game to win. And I think SOS was just prepping for the base trade. All the shield batteries, the Nexus. Yeah, GG's. 2-0 for Hero. I think, I don't know, because I've missed a lot of tournaments that are happening. Because StarCraft happens every day. But it's funny, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people's metas are more up to date than I am, because y'all were watching RSL. Look how comfortable Dimitri looks. That is a comfortable cat. Let's get his little pawsy in there. It is a video. To TVP, and we have Clem in the bottom left, Zound in the top right, ley lines being the map, both players being in EWC. Sure, they get the EWC bracket up. I think they're in the same group. Yeah, I was right. It's actually very possible for Clem versus Zound to be the qualifying match to get into the playoffs of EWC. So, yeah. Clem faces the winner of a play-in winner, which we don't know yet. And then Solar versus Zound is the first match that Zound will be playing. And Zound has a very good chance of winning that. Well, I should say he has an equal chance of winning that as Solar does. They're very, very equal. So I think I even gave him a bit of the edge when I talked about it. I think a Ligilag also gave him an edge over Solar. So anyway, this could actually be happening next week. This actual game would have happened like 3 weeks ago or something, because we're talking about the groups for RSL right now. But yeah, point still stands. The meta hasn't changed all that much. I mean, TVP right now, we're kind of, I feel, figuring things out as far as, are SCV pools going to be as rampant as they were in those GSL seasons? They don't seem to be. And is PVT an issue for Terrans, or is it an issue for, like, the non-Clem Terrans? You know what I mean? I feel like those are the questions we're asking for this matchup. Zound has been looking pretty strong. I mean, to actually qualify into EWC is a very good result over some other very promising Korean players. And he also has been, I think, just sharp. You know, just not really any critiques that I have on him. PVZ, PVT, PvP. Clem, though, kind of a god at PVT, or versus TVP. He's also very good at PVT, actually, which is an important point to note, because he almost will certainly be playing Protoss versus Terran at EWC. As far as I know, that's what he's only been practicing, so unless he's done a real switcheroo and has practiced off stream and, you know, off tournaments as TVT. But anyway, back to his TVP. Probably the best in the world at this point. Cure 100% was the best TVPer in the world approximately 2 years ago. Might have held that title technically, statistically for a while. Maybe statistically he still does. I'm not sure about that. All I know is that Cure's TVP statistically has gone down. We did look at that when we were studying. It has absolutely gone down, whereas Clem's has either gone up or has stayed similar. And then before, people were like, he plays worse Protoss. Okay, yeah, fair enough. But I still think he's very good against the top-tier Protoss. That win rate doesn't change that often against the likes of, like, Zound, I suppose, or Classic, or... I was going to say Zest. Where the hell did that come from? Anyway, we do have Stalker Zealot on the front lines. A little bit of that early aggression, reminding Terrans to take them seriously in the early game. Unfortunately, 2 Reapers and a Hellion seem to be just good enough. The Zealot gets the kill on the Hellion. That's still not as important as the Stalkers going down. So we had 1 Stalker going down, a Hellion and a Reaper so far. SCV still going to have some trouble finishing the command center. And I suppose at the end of the day, that's really what Zound would want from this. You know, if he could kill every unit, he would have had even further delay on the command center. But he would have a huge delay, actually, because the Marines would be the only defense at that point if he had a Stalker and Zealot alive. But that was not going to happen. Not with Clem's control. Zound, with a little bit of that early aggression, is ultimately going into Blink, 2 gates, Robo. He's got a pylon being built at the very top left. I think that is just a scouting pylon. It's just, it's so early on. You don't have that many pylons early on as Protoss. But dude, there's definitely an argument to putting the third pylon down elsewhere. There's also an argument to being wary of a tank drop, killing this only pylon that you have powering this. Just throwing that out there. I don't know if that actually is what happens, but I do see tanks in the production tab. Another pylon, again, as a scouting one. I mean, it does scout the medevac, but it was also already kind of scouted. This was a Stalker Zealot opener, so noteworthy, no sentry. I didn't know exactly what was going to be sent his way. You know, I could actually see some argument against going for sentries. I mean, the problem is, right, this is absolutely going to be a cycle, is that as soon as Protoss players are like, basically every Terran's factory expanding into a medevac drop of some type, I'm totally A-okay, is when the Terran's going to be like, wow, this guy isn't scouting me. I'm going to go for like a tank push. I'm going to go for a proxy something. I'm going to go for an early aggressive attack. And then Protoss going to be like, ah! And they're going to go for a sentry fast again. I feel like that cycle will continue for a while. But for now, predicting, you know, just a Widowmine drop or even just a Marines and a Cyclone drop, you know, that's a lot of TVPs. It wasn't Cyclone. It was only one Widowmine. Tanks have been built back at home. It is not 4-gate blink, but it did end up being 3 gateways, so just the other one being in the main base. And we do have charge on the way as the third Nexus looks to complete. War Prism in the main, alongside a decent number of Stalkers threatening it, but it looks like it did not like what it saw. One siege tank, another one popped out. Auto turret even brought in a lot of DPS, and a good number of Marines. You add that all together, and the Stalkers don't really want to do what they were thinking about doing. Even though it was a decent number of them, 10 Stalkers were created, they are not going to find any way to get into the main base. So Clem, I mean, some of the Terran players may be playing a little more cavalier. They may be like, this guy's not really going to dedicate on the Stalker pressure because he's going to get his third Nexus, he's going to get his Robotics Bay, and he's going to try and play that macro game. But if there's one person who's going to be wary and extraordinarily good against Stalker pressure, it's going to be Clem, because Max Pack still does all the time. Other Protoss might not be doing it as much. They might not get the War Prism with a 3 gateway. They might not actually build the Stalkers. They might go 2 gateway, for instance, as well. Some, you know, one Protoss definitely still does the Blink Stalker pressure, and that's Max Pax, and that's who Clem faces all the freaking time. So unfortunately, Zaun's aggression isn't really going to work out. It's not like it was a huge committal from him, but it is, you know, kind of a noteworthy committal at times, how many Stalkers they actually produce off of this. Do they get the War Prism? That's 275 minerals that could have gone elsewhere. That is so far not doing any damage, but in my opinion is always worth it. Robotics Bay is about halfway done. All your gateways you're going to need on those 3 bases too, as our minerals are saturated and 3 gas is the game plan. Stalkers just wary of the move out. You know, that's really all they're waiting for. And there's not much for Clem to do except make sure the War Prism doesn't do damage, and then the Stalkers don't catch like his Medevacs, for instance. You know? You know? You know? You know? You know? Holy shit. The Observer, I don't know if it saw that or not. Because if it saw it, you think the Raven would have seen the Observer. But it looks like Zaun was just wondering if there was going to be a drop. You know, there hasn't been any movement. Stim and combat shields should be finishing up. Like, what's going on? Doesn't manage to catch 3 medevacs. Heading on over to a 4th base, of which he is about to create. He's about to create. So, the timing. He almost had 400 minerals. I think that's exactly when he was going to slap down the Nexus. And that probably would have been killed, not canceled. Just the timing would have been so unfortunate. But the army was actually built up back at that 3rd base. Gets the Raven and kind of surprises Clem, I want to say. Otherwise, he would not have taken the fight in that fashion. You know, he got up close and personal to those charge lots very quickly. But in the main base he goes. Forge taken down. That one, the pylon I was talking about, does get taken down. This pylon also looks a little vulnerable to me. But it's not going to be taken down. And we do have 3 medevacs moving on away. 2 medevacs still full of units. It is a little scary. Zaun has not been able to do the equivalent with his War Prism, as he also has not seen the rest of the army move out. It wouldn't really be worth it. The Observer is finally going to move as it sees the army congregating, and the 3rd CC is planted. Zaun took quite a blow there. Losing his upgrade, now going to go into the double forge, but still losing a long period of time for the upgrade. And then also being delayed heavily on the 4th. Not exactly uncommon. The 4th is not a guarantee if the Terran has, you know, units. But it was a long denial of the Nexus. Like, seriously, as soon as he had 400 minerals is when that drop occurred. I'm pretty sure that's when he wanted it. That's at least a minute lost on the Nexus, right? And that minute is big because if you had been building it the entire time, it's already done. It's already providing a shield bag. It's already providing fast warp-ins. And it's already maybe even mining a little bit. Instead, we gotta wait for the shield battery, as well as the fast warp-ins. And Clem's army is already here. Warp Prism did go into the third, though, however, and that is a little under-defended. Warp Prism also in the main base. Clem still going to go for the fourth Nexus, gets that cancel, and is looking for more. His army is incredibly scary. Equal upgrades currently. Immortal on the front lines, dangerously close to being able to be sniped. Zealots being warped in. Tanks will siege up. Second Colossus arrives in the nick of time. An aggressive blink forward as well. Woo, that's dangerous. Tanks properly focus fire the Colossus, now chunking into those Stalkers. This is going to be a cleanup. Meanwhile, Clem lost 18 SCVs at home, as well as a certain number of his reinforcements, I would suspect. But a lot of reinforcements are at least here. He's not going to be counterattacked and killed. Third CC is still alive, but he is at a 28 worker deficit. Zaun does not have to rebuild workers. He just has to wait 400 mineral-wise and then plants his Nexus down, and he will be golden. Clem has such a long road ahead of him to clean up this mess. He's got that 25 army supply lead. He's got the upgrade lead as well. But can he do something with it? 4 Vikings ain't bad. Only 1 Colossus will be on the field. Clem's moment is here, and he knows that. Zaun also figuring that one out. Wanted to try and track the army a little bit more. Unfortunately, did not see it going after his 4th Nexus. So another cancel, very important, you know, keeping Zaun suppressed. Zaun actually thought he was going to get the 4th Nexus up. He's at the 70 probes, and now he's really oversaturated. But his army supply looks to be solid enough. A couple of warp-ins later, and their army supplies are matching each other. Upgrade still goes to Clem, but that's too many Zealots. The Colossus can't be touched by the Vikings with so many Stalkers chasing after, focus firing down the Marauders as well. And Clem is struggling to find the damage he really needs, because the 4th Nexus cancel is the first step. But another 4th Nexus is on the way. Hell, I feel like Zaun might even be able to double expand. I don't think you double expand with the intention of actually mining from both expansions, but perhaps with the intention of one of them going down, basically. Oh, okay, well, there you go. All right. There you go. 4th base is on the way, 5th base as well, because also, in a perfect game of which you never had to cancel your Nexus, a 5th base would be probably coming down now for this matchup. It's actually the way it goes. But Zaun, you know, he gets a 5th Nexus. That is a lot of money going into something that's not rewarding him yet, 2 Nexus. He does still have the army that I think would be able to control the game. It's not going to win the game, but control the game. Stalkers tracking the main army, Colossus and Immortals and whatnot back at home, ready for any type of drop that would come across the map. And Clem, well, yeah, kind of the time at which you say I really can't do anything more. If I try and all in here, let's say, you know, just like throw everything that I have across the map, Zealots will come in and ensure it's an all-in. They'll kill all my SCVs. And then Defender's Advantage would be so difficult to beat. Force fields on the ramp, Colossus, Disruptors. So, if you can't be aggressive, then you're probably going to have to be defensive. Scouts that Observer, nicely done. Warp Prism sitting up to the top left, Zealot to the bottom right, and only Stalkers on the front, but Clem needs to be very afraid of the possibility of an entire army being at the front. I mean, you know, Zaun really could, but Zaun is playing cautiously, wants to know that his 5 bases will be intact and mining. And he's already saturated his 5th the most. He's already saturated all his bases, good lord. He went up to 70, 82 probes. Difficult game for Clem. If he gets his 4th base up as a planetary, I think that's when Terrans can breathe a sigh of relief to a certain degree. But 2-2 is on the way. Zaun has made up for the lost forge earlier on. He's working his way up to 3-2. Getting a Dark Shrine as well, no doubt with Blink to provide that extra option to go for the attacks on the economy. That is so many Zealots, good lord. A couple of Widow Mines going to be helpful. A couple of EMPs as well. Hitting us +2 attack finishes at the very least, so Clem has that going for him. Dodges away the Disruptor, chases the Colossus down. One Disruptor does hit, doesn't quite kill the Marauders, but the Zealots trying to come in here, get those last swipes. The Colossus are down, the Zealots are falling, the Disruptors are being focus fired alongside the Immortals as well, and Zaun is going to lose a large chunk of his army. He did have a run-by to the natural, but it looks like it doesn't actually do a whole lot of damage. Disruptor number 3 misses. Mostly Zealots at this point, but just enough of an army to tackle that. All prior to that ground armor level 2 being done, by the way, which I think would have really helped that battle. But yeah, natural was cleaned up thanks to reinforcements and a bunker by the looks of things. War Prism in the main never happened, I think, is what happened. I think that's how it went down. I thought there was something over there. I think there was, but it died, or the Zealots that were there were used. Oh, it was Zealots. That was what it was. I think the Zealots just went a part of the main army. So yeah, only one run by to try and do the damage that the front push didn't, as well as stall out the counter push. Doesn't work out. Clem is able to do something of a counter attack, let's say. He takes the map, is what he does. That's not really a counter attack, and that is so many Zealots. One of mine is going to be necessary, but one's not burrowed. 3 will be burrowed now, however, and that's going to be the trick right there, especially the Zealots clump on up. That's a lot of damage on them. A lot of Skittle Zealots going down right now, but do we have enough firepower beyond that? 2-2 versus 3-2. Stalkers coming in here. Medivacs being targeted down at this point. More Wood of Mines burrow, though, and that is going to be it for the Zealots. Clem holding on to this game, but he is still down 22 workers. Zaun was able to grab a 5th, and then, of course, a 6th, which also has a lot of mining being done on it. Clem's 4th might be able to mine, but he is still losing out in the economy. He needs to take even better trades than what he's been doing. So far, only about a 3,000 resource trade advantage for him. It's not quite enough. Wood of Mines, once again, going to have to be great here. A couple of them do pop off. EMP also necessary, but that is not maybe enough. The Disruptors also shoot their shot. One misses, doesn't get sniped. Zealots head into the natural, kill the bunker. Oh, the Disruptor gets sniped. This one will not get a shot, and Clem does hold on. The Zealot numbers are getting thinned out right now. Disruptors aren't getting the shots that they would like. No other attack on the way. Clem's 3-3 did start, but it's still such a long way from finishing. Meanwhile, Zaun 3-2-1 now. Shields will finish. Maybe a Disruptor getting sniped right there. Nope, unable to do so. Clem has been trading so often, he really can't afford to go for a couple of Liberators, which would be helpful. Draw a line in the sand. It's not something he can afford. Speaking of air units, by the way, he does not have any Vikings. The Colossus has finally been built, but the Vikings are grounded. But it's still not enough of them. And this is going to be Clem tapping out. GG. Zaun is able to throw reinforcements after reinforcements. Not a lot that Clem could do. I mean, you could say Clem, maybe before he lost more and more of those battles, he maybe could have sent out a drop. But it is very difficult for Terran in that scenario. Sending out a drop doesn't guarantee damage. A single drop of 8 Marines gets cleared up by reinforcements. If you send out more, you either die to the frontal attack or they recall, and then you don't really feel like you've made a lot of headway. Probably still better than what happened, though, because if they do recall, at least you can try and get on the map. But very difficult time for the Terrans in this moment. With, you know, the 3 to 4 base Terran versus the 5 to 6 base Protoss is where we're seeing a lot of Terrans struggle to find that back and forth. Occasionally we get great games. Occasionally, like, what was it, Cure versus Classic, I think? That was a really good one. But, yeah, a lot of other Terrans struggling. Bottom left, you do have Team Liquid's Clem. Top right, it is Zaun, who does have a team. I think he's on Team Vitality, if I remember correctly. I was right. Nailed it. So, Zaun played a PVT, about 75% of that PVT, kind of to perfection. As in, that's the beat, that's the drum line, that's the, I don't know, some of the music term, I don't know. that a Protoss really wants to adhere to. There's a lot of changes to it. There's all like the wind instruments doing their thing, or I don't know why I chose a music analogy. I'm not very good at music at all. But anyways, like that might change. How many times you might say like, oh, the Terran has a chance. How many times you have to rely on mass zealots to defend you because you did overstep with your more expensive army. That might change a little bit, but the core is still there, and Zound played the core out very nicely, which is getting your expansions up, getting superior upgrades, and then taking repetitive battles, really being a Zerg player versus Terran. Not as drastic in the resources lost traits as the team matchup, but still same idea. It was the first 8 minutes of the game that were the most precarious for Zound. He lost his Forge. He was dealing with a drop. He had lost, the 4th Nexus a couple times. We'll cancel it. But it still wasn't enough for Zound to actually buckle. Zound just kind of stayed the course. Made some nice moves with the run-bys, try and give him some room. Did some nice micro-maneuvers when he did have the chance. The focus fire the Stalkers when the Zealots were given chase. And it just brought him to a really more comfortable position where you do have that bank, you do have that economy to rely on. And for Clem, as I said, maybe you go for a drop, maybe you fit in Liberators earlier. It's difficult because for the Terran's perspective, a drop, again, as I said, might not be worth it supply-wise. Their supply gets reinforced instantly. They beat your supply, no problem. It might not be worth it to do because they can recall to go for like a big Doom drop. And then a recall doesn't feel like you gained that much headway. Liberators are also not just something that can be expensive to build, they're also something that changes how you fight with a Terran army. So if you are running around, maybe having a bit of a more of a back and forth, you go into Liberators, that actually drags you down quite a bit. And so going swiftly into them is basically more so a sign to the Protoss that you really are playing defensive, that there is more opportunity perhaps to try and play around your army and try and throw different tasks at you. And eventually the Liberator count gets enough to cover all the bases, and then your bio army is 100 supply and whatever. Then the Protoss has to be worried about the Liberator counter, the one that has 8 Liberators with all their upgrades. But it's just so difficult to get to that point while not kind of giving the Protoss a wide berth, letting them do a lot of stuff to stop you from getting to that point. So anyways, I don't think I need to be reminding everyone how tough it can seem for Terrans, again, to that 3 to 4 base scenario for them. Because as far as the 1 to 2 base to 2-3 bases, I guess, we know the Terrans have a lot of opportunities to try and do some damage. But Zound has opted for a Sentry Opener this time. He has already sent out Hallucination. He knows it is a 1-1-1. And while that doesn't guarantee a defense, because they can change up where they head with it, they can change up doing a drop with it, they can change up doing a frontal attack with it, it still does give them a lot of information. And generally, the best Protoss players are able to avoid taking catastrophic damage. And that would be Zound's goal at this point. Not trying to be fancy with the Stalkers. Might not even go for the Warp Prism, actually. He is going up to... Oh, he's going up to 4 gateways. Well, definitely a Warp Prism then. Alright, my bad. 2 gateways already built. 2 more being built and properly defended. This Reaper cannot get a look into the main base. So bringing out kind of the old 4-gate. Was dominant in the meta for a period before Terrans started to really figure out how to deal with it. Even then, the best 4-gaters in the world were still abusing it. And then it did finally really fall off. And we're more so seeing the 3 gateway as that perfect middle ground. Maybe aggressive, maybe defensive. Clem was already really well set up in the last game against what was only a 3-gate. If he does the same type of setup, he probably has a solid chance to defend. But it would be lovely to scout the fact that it is a 4-gate. Meta that goes into the main base, only to be denied by the Stalkers, so they will not see the additional 2 gateways. 3rd Nexus is planted, however, so this is not the most dedicated 4-gate. I think the Stalkers would have come sooner, the 4 Stalker obviously would have come sooner. Slight differences, slight differences. But yeah, still kind of scary. I thought that was a Zealot. Oh my god, that was a Sentry. Okay, the sentry force field on the ramp. The bunker does finish in the nick of time. Although the tank falls, the bunker should do the trick. I thought for sure that was a zealot. Who sees a sentry be put out first like that? That's like putting the baby on the front line. It's like they'll be distracted. Of course, obviously, he was aiming for the force field on the ramp. I get that. It's just... Yeah, thought he was going for a zealot drop. So the tanks would be fighting each other. But the sentry kind of did the trick as far as making sure that the tank was killed. It didn't really do much else as the attack was ultimately thwarted. Clem, that bunker, perfect timing. Banshee comes in as well, which was a surprise. I think it was, just because, yeah, he didn't hallucinate anymore. He was using that sentry for other things, so he stopped hallucinating. So the Banshee comes in as a surprise, but a very quick recall and an observer timing back at home works out for him. Would've dropping the main base does not find incredible damage, and it looks like Zaun will stop any bleeding back at home, which is quite important, because with his dedication more so to the 4-gate than the 3rd Nexus, like, he really isn't doing particularly well on the economy. If he had taken, let's say, 10 probes of the damage, he'd be probably in a lot of trouble. As it is, this is not going to, how to say, it's not gonna, match the pacing one would desire in a more and more macro PvT, but I think Zaun can actually find his way out of it. It's up to Clem to be able to follow up. And he's got 2 Banshees, so keep that in mind for his own production and his own pacing. 3rd ZC is on the way. Hallucination will be able to get sight on that before it dies. And the game continues. But yeah, not having that 8-probe lead as soon as possible to make up for the 2 mules. It's certainly worth talking about. Zaun has to buy time. Fortunately, a Warp Prism is great at that. And when he buys time, maybe he'll be stuck on 3 bases for a little while longer, but hey, that was kind of like last game. He was stuck on 3 bases for longer than what we usually want, and he still managed to make that work. Soccer number 1 goes down before the rest blink out. Army goes out, Warp Prism goes in. It's beautiful, it's magic. Cyclone is there, but it's not on patrol, although it's still, okay, Warp Prism actually gets in range on it. It is going to be micro to the last second, but not able to take out the Warp Prism. Tank now under fire, Warp Prism goes back in. And it saved the Zealot, saves 2 of them. Banshees are going to provide a little bit extra on the way of damage, but also a little bit of scouting. Observer is here, however, and that is once again hell of it. It's even worse Artosis Pylon than last game. It's even worse. 3 gateways are depowered. Whoops. And it looks like the Stalkers are once again under pressure. I think another Stalker did go down. Clem's attack is a-coming. Equal upgrades. Zaun on just 1 Colossus. Does need a little bit more in the army supply, but the Banshees are also hitting his main base. 2 of them still available. Pierce through that shield battery, no problem. And that is probe damage plus distraction. Good number of units hitting behind there too. And it looks like Clem's like, the Banshees doing it. Banshees are good. I'm not even going to try. Whatever. I'm not even going to go after you. Maybe fearing that Warp Prism will once again come back in. But 14 probes killed by the Banshees. The off-timing Banshees. They do it again. And I'd say that is very worth it. It is 14 probes later on in the game, but it is 14 probes when Zaun was already not on the best economic footing. He had already gone for a 4-gate. Did not work. It wasn't the most dedicated 4-gate at all, but still. And then he had also taken a little bit of damage to the first Banshee, and then a lot of damage to the 2 Banshees together. So this is making sure that Zaun is really suppressed. I mean, Clem is actually holding his head underwater, and Zaun is going to go for a desperate maneuver. He's going to try and take him down with him. Clem has same army supply, but tanks are sieged up. Zealots trying to run on through, but unfortunately not going to be able to take out all of the tanks. 3 ACVs go down in that very bold maneuver. That was just like, just rush him. Just go for it. And that did not end up working. And Zaun is, again, not technically all in, but without a 4th Nexus, although one is being put down now, he's really not able to take fights like last game. I mean, this is more like a classic TVP, right? Where it's like the Protoss, well, theoretical classic TVP. The Protoss has a chance to build up this really strong army, but they're not going to build 2. They're not going to build 3. This is more of that period of TVP that existed some years ago. It's like, can your 1 army do the trick? Now, when you're down almost 30 supply and an upgrade, well, equal upgrades. I mean, maybe you probably won't. But down, he did one very bold move in. Kind of got slapped around for it to a certain degree, but he will be able to use his army to at least defend. And the possibility of him making a comeback here is not zero. I do think it would be a comeback, but it's not zero. 4th base will finish up. 5th base is on the way. That might not even be touched, just as Clem really focuses on killing a 4th base and ultimately killing Zaun. Clem's own 4th base already turning into a planetary. This is a beautiful setup for the Terran player. You got your upgrades on the way, your production's finalizing, 2nd starport's here. The Protoss player has not matched or really exceeded your base count like they should. And so their ability to reinforce is going to be limited. One good battle for the Terran might just win Clem the game. And Zaun basically has to make sure he never takes that fight. Not until he has a more comfortable bank. Or an absolutely perfect fight. It's very difficult to do so when you have this army. Disruptor also kind of getting left behind there. The way that this army wins against this army is that if it goes into a choke, and Disruptors hit, I suppose, too, but there's no Disruptors. But a choke, maybe. Clem does have 8 Vikings, so the Colossus can't abuse the choke forever. Zaun is trying to max out. But push is coming to shove, and Clem is already on Zaun's doorstep, which means that even if Zaun does start to build a bit of a bank, has the opportunity to build a kind of second army, it's going to be on its reinforcement point. 2-2 is now done for the Terran. A 2 upgrade advantage. Vikings top of the Colossus, not really being taken down particularly quickly. Zealots coming in from an awkward angle, not really overwhelming the bio. That's an understatement. This Terran army stands its ground for the most part and slaughters everything. Those upgrades certainly helped, but it was also just a very impressive Terran army. I mean, Zaun, the way that Protoss is right now is you got to chip away at this type of army. And there you have it. Those reinforcements coming in at the reinforcement point just means all the Zealots get slaughtered, the pylon gets deleted, and that is going to be Clem taking game number 2. I was happy to see there was another person who was like, we'll fix all of the issues with StarCraft if we return to 6 workers. I was happy to see some pushback on that, because it does feel like something people really believe a little too much. And it feels like, oh man, what, there was like a movie or TV show that I really like, because it's something I rewatch. And someone was like, oh, The Incredibles 2. That's what it is, which I don't really like, but it's good. In The Incredibles 2, where the villain, spoiler alert, is explaining that my brother confuses the time of the superheroes at the time of his youth and the safety and protection that he felt during it. Or something along those lines, right? I really feel like that's what people do with the 6 worker start. They're confusing the 6 worker start with it being 10 years ago and being happier and probably still like, you know, like under their parents' watch, maybe in college with like having fun all the time. Instead of 10 years later where they have like 2 babies that they hate and a wife they don't like. And I'm just kidding, everyone's like that, but still. I feel like we're just getting nostalgia goggles. And not just nostalgia goggles, it's also just like, even if we had stayed with 6 workers until 2025, the same thing would happen to a game. If there's not rapid or there's not big changes, the game gets figured out. That's everything that happens all the time. And I think we just have taken too long to really have drastic map changes. Everyone's favorite caster? Yeah, everyone's. The problem is, no one can ever really prove that 6 workers would allow for all the things that people say that it allows. People are like, it allowed for more strategic variety. Did it though? Just because it seemed to have, when you watch the best games of StarCraft 10 years later, doesn't mean that it still would have 10 years later. There was less turtle games. Is there? You sure about that? Are you sure? Yeah, my other pet peeve when I look at comments is people just thinking like they a lot of times they're people who don't even really watch a lot of Brood War. They watch some maybe. Sometimes they do watch a lot of Brood War, but I think they're also quite biased where they're like Brood War is always interesting. There was always something amazing being talked about in the first 10 minutes. There's like these little tiny strategic decisions that are just, they just influence the game so much and there's so much to go on. And then I watch Brood War and I'm like, well, the first 10 minutes of this game didn't have very much going on, and that game didn't have very much going on, and that game didn't have very much going on, and that game didn't have very much going on. This game ended with one push. This game ended with a cheese that was unscouted. Wait a second.
Twitch Prime sub received.
This sounds
Thank
a lot
you
like
for
some
appeasing the
StarCraft 2
overmind.
games. Crystal, thank you for the Prime sub. And then there's another aspect to it too, where a lot of people watch Tastosis cast Brood War, which is great because they're great at it. And they're like, they just talk, they have so many more details in the first 10 minutes of a Brood War game that make it so interesting. It's like, do they? It's interesting. That's all I'll say about that. All right, moving on to game 3. Well, they do. It's just, is it because Brood War is more interesting or because they have more to talk about with Brood War than they do in StarCraft 2? Because I think at that point you compare, you know, like Pig nerding out about every little detail in the first 10 minutes of StarCraft 2 to Pig then attempting to cast Brood War, which would be probably at most, well, this guy has 3 factories and is maybe doing a 2-base all-in. And then you're like, wow, that also has a very drastic change. Interesting. Anyway, Maganatha, top left, Clem, bottom right, Zound. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, Tastosis have a drastically different style of casting Brood War versus StarCraft 2. Drastically different. I do think that, and to be more on the topic here about Brood War, I do make fun of what I think are general statements made too broadly and too commonly, and I think they're mimicked too much. Like, 6 workers would solve everything. Brood War is the much better game. I do actually believe that Brood War has a higher chance of a great game. That's what I believe. I am, at the very core, a slight Brood War elitist. That's a way of it. And I am prepared to be the most elitist StarCraft 2 person if a StarCraft 3 ever released. But yeah, I do think that Brood War has the more potential. But I also think that has to do a lot with how they've already grown their scene. And how StarCraft 2 is really, it's like back into its teenage years as far as the scene. Not the meta. The meta is actually very old and cranky and yells at children on its lawn. But the scene, I feel like, is back in the teenage years. Where it's just like, we're really trying to figure out what we want to be and what we want to provide. And like content creation wise and pro gamer wise, I guess. And map making wise. And I would really, really prefer if maps just ended up being crazy. Because if we're too scared of the game being broken by patches, which is a legitimate fear, then maps would be the easy way out of it. But now it's my turn to be the cranky old boomer. Anyway, we do have Clem going for 1 Rax expand. Didn't lose the SCV. Only a slight amount of lost building time. Reaper did not kill the probe. Boom. There you go. That's a summary. Flight Council on the way for Zound, and Clem goes into a factory. You know, apparently, just thinking of maps and EWC coming up and stuff, apparently EWC is going to be played on this patch, as in there will not be a fix for the Cyclone. Got that confirmed recently. So that'll be interesting. How many times will a Zerg player die to a Cyclone? build? And how much will that tarnish the victory? Oh, that finds the Reaper. Wasn't it EWC or it was Gamers 8 at the time? Wasn't Gamers 8 also when the Colossus bug existed? And that was before people realized it? Not quite able to drag the Widowmine over to the SCVs, which seemed like it was a bit of an intent there. It's cute. But not possible. Zound only went up to 3 gateways this time, but also prioritizing that third Nexus. And no Warp Prism. Well, you can't blame any professional Terrans for building Cyclones, I mean. You just can't. Oh, the Colossus was patched before. I couldn't quite remember. Was there reason to believe it would be fixed in time for EWC? I think people were hoping that someone hired maybe like a mod maker to make a mod that fixed it. Because that is very, very possible, I would say. But it would require someone to actually do it! Oh, Jesus! Ah! That could have been so much worse. Holy shit. 5 probes is better than a bajillion. But, you know, you're supposed to be 2. Alright, cool. Little heart palpitation wakes you up in the morning. Anyway, what is it talking about? Oh, that a mod could be made. That's right. A mod could be made. But it would take someone who actually does that. Probably pay someone out of their own pocket because no one's going to afford it. And then implement it. Get like the like technical legal way to do it. Which, you know, you're like, they don't even care about us. Why would it matter? Why isn't just someone like taking the reins and doing this? And it, unfortunately, no matter how much someone doesn't care about someone else, they will absolutely still be litigious against them. Litigious. That's right, right? That's the right pronunciation. Yeah, exactly, because the Colossus one was fixed for a long time because of a mod. Yeah. So I think that's why people had some hope. But nope. 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 And, you know, I actually haven't seen it abused too much, but obviously it does happen. Third CC is on the way for Clem after what could have been a catastrophic Widowmine drop. It was just a good one instead. Zound did go for that fast 3 Nexus. Not for 3 gateways, sure, but still. No Warp Prism. Not a lot of Stalkers being warped in. So his economy was already pretty good. It was, you know, reduced more than you would usually want. Finds the Medivacs too. Gives Clem a little bit of a heart attack right then. And Clem is going to do the old switcheroo. He's like, I'm leaving. Just kidding, I'm not leaving. The Medivacs will be heading over to what looks to be the main. The Raven's already there. Might help the drop actually drop. And then we also have the Widowmine drop still present. So that's a lot of things for Zound to keep track of, including the front attack that could happen. He's got an observer, so that shouldn't be a problem seeing the army move out, but it's going to be a problem trying to protect himself against everything that his opponent can throw at him. Raven used the auto turret to kill 5 probes. That's still pretty good. This observer will be seeing the Medivacs incoming, so Zound shouldn't take a lot of damage at this one. But he does have Stalkers every which way. Oh, he just saw the move out. The Stalkers went to go meet the move out. Now they're recalling, and that might have actually been when Zound was supposed to. Okay, that is because of the drop going in. Okay, good job. I was afraid he had gotten distracted, looking in the wrong place at the wrong time. But he also had more army waiting for that too. Raven finally scouts the observer. He's like, hey, wait a second, how'd you know about that? And that'll be another opening for Clem, perhaps in the future. Scan ahead reveals mostly Zealots here, which he is going to be able to tackle with Marine Widowmine. The force fields are a little scary, and that's actually exactly what happens with the force field. Do not trap the bio, and the Zealots get obliterated by the Widowmines. All pretty darn good hits right there. 4th base is also canceled, so Zound is able to mind that. And the Widowmine drop is still distracting 3 Stalkers. The scan reveals it, I guess. The scan doesn't even see the Stalkers, but the Widowmine drop does. I guess he was looking for the technology and the gas count, because he hadn't seen a Colossus yet, so he was wondering. He saw an Immortal, so he knew it was a Robo. I mean, obviously it's a Robo. But might have also just been looking just to see if the army was there and how big it was. Zealots found in the middle of the map. That's a big loss for Zound. 600 minerals down the drain that were supposed to buy time and kill a couple of SCVs are found instantly as Clem is attacking him. That is a big loss. Zaun really losing a bit too much every single time. Still has these 2 Colossus to depend on. No Vikings out as of yet, but we do have 9 medevacs and the Raven, although Raven's going to die. Auto turret barely helps out, but that is not a very large Protoss army, and that is enough Marauders on the front line, squeezing past those forcefuls to kill the Colossus. Immortal should go down next, and Zaun is in too much trouble. He is going to lose game 3. What went wrong so fast to make it so drastically different to the first 2 games? GG's. I mean, he did lose more probes. Yeah, I guess it's in the probes plus the Nexus being so much later. Because the Nexus was canceled, but also probably should have been built faster to begin with without the probes that were killed. And then Zaun wasn't actually equipped to attack like this or defend like this, I guess. Like, he probably should have just canceled that again. He's in big doo-doo even if he cancels it and leaves, but that just went so wrong so fast. Clearly based off of a lot of other things that happened, but there was nothing huge that happened. Top 3 is Hero, Cyril, Clem. The 7 worker lead. Well, it should have already been saturated, so that's the 7 before this happened, I guess. That was 5 workers down, 250 minerals. And another 5. Gets the Nexus. Shouldn't build more probes because Nexus not going to finish anytime soon. Gets it canceled. Takes a lot of losses over here too. Yeah, I guess this was actually a double whammy. I mean, it was a triple whammy. So he loses 5 extra probes after losing 5 to begin with. So that's 10 in total so far. Then he gets a canceled 4th Nexus, and he loses like 8 Zealots inefficiently. All right, GG's. Hero is gutsy? Nah, I don't think Hero's gutsy. There are 3 of the 4 people who made it to last year's round of 4 in the EWC. I feel like I said those names as top 3 just because I think they're all very strong. And then I looked at last year's EWC and I was like, logic! I have logic on my side this time. Not even feelings. It's logic. And then the 4th person was Dark, who's not here. So I said classic. I think it'll be 2 Protoss in the round of 4. Protoss never wins except the 2 GSLs that they won. And spoiler alert, this one. And people forget Protoss actually is the most present race of all the global finals. Do you know that? Do you know that? Of course, not in the last 2 years. I wonder if there's anything to do with EU being Protoss dominated. Which part of my comment? With the lowest ratio of actually winning anything, it's true they didn't win all those global finals. We just placed in them. But we're talking about the round of 4. Excuse you. We're talking about the round of 4. I said that that 2 Protoss will be in the round of 4. I didn't say they'd win. So. Oh, it's not even that good. It's just the last one that I have. Palisade Peach Wheat. Palisade peaches are very popular around here. And there's a better version of this drink that I really liked, and I didn't get that one, clearly, because this one sucks. No one has a straight answer for you, Roberts Bob. Just guesses. Strict parents. Closeted lifestyle. Social anxiety. All right, we got our winners match of this group. So we're getting another Clem TVP. Top right it is Hero, bottom left it is Clem. So yeah, Clem looked good against Zoun. Zoun looked good against Clem until that last game. That last game went off the rails very quickly, which is kind of interesting that it didn't seem like it was the end of the world until it was. And who knows what could have happened if Zoun did not try to protect that fourth base. But I'm pretty sure he does still die. I mean, he was at the very last second of that game, he was down 50 supply, so obviously if he didn't take the fight, he'd be down more like 30 supply, I guess. And then I think that is technically something you can come back with, but it would require the utmost perfect PvT play. So it was a lot of the things actually working and that don't usually work. The Widowmine drop, the drop into the main, the auto turrets. One of them usually works, I guess you could say. One of them, and when I say works, I mean kill 5 probes. One of them can work, but most of the times none of them do more than 2 probes worth of damage. And that's still kind of a big deal. Even if the opponent has been playing a little bit of a greedier style. Maybe they could afford a couple of losses more than if they had a failed 4-gate, for instance. But including the loss of probes with a big loss of zealots. That's the double whammy that I think really killed him. Because I do believe we've seen a lot of Terrans who do get 5 probes with the Raven, or do get 5 probes with the Widowmine drop, or 10 probes with the Banshee. All right, we saw that at the EWC qualifier, and the Protoss still ended up winning. It's just that when you combine it with also investment of an army, you lost both. You lost your economy and you lost your army. And you can't replace both at the same time. You got to choose one or the other to really take risks on, and it just makes you vulnerable one way or another. And by the end of that game, he had lost, I think, something like 16 zealots very inefficiently. Very inefficiently. 1,600 minerals down the drain when you already lost your probes. So, yeah, that kind of how I took that game anyway. But more to the point, as we watch another Protoss come in here, I don't think you get that game too often. Hero's not going to make the exact same order of mistakes that Clem then finds a surprisingly easy TVP to win, like that game number 3 was. It is going to be a Stargate opener, though, which is less and less likely. Now, Stargate opener has been used every now and again, but it seems to be used once in a best of 3, and then the Protoss are like, oh, right, I should just go Twilight Council. That seems to be what happens. Whether they go into Phoenix, Colossus, or Oracle Blink, it seems they do it once, they lose with it as well, is what it feels like. And then they're like, nah, never mind. Back into the box I go, back into the Twilight Council. And it is going to be Phoenix here, so we'll see if it is going to be Phoenix Colossus or Phoenix Charge, which we don't see too often, but I think is a nice little mix-up. I mean, a lot of the argument for the Stargate being not that appealing anymore is just that it's not as good. I don't think it's necessarily bad. It's just not as good as going directly into Blink or going directly into Charge Storm. Clem is trying to get a scout, but so far being denied. Wall on the high ground, stalkers, and pseudo wall on the natural too, actually. Reaper gonna try and force his way in. Not gonna work out. He does not know it is a Stargates, and there's no clues to it either. Not even an Adept as an opener. Just 3 stalkers. No sentry, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's Stargate. There are no sentry openers with the Twilight Council as well. So this is something that Clem might be very unfortunate in not knowing, as he sends a drop across the map. Wouldn't mind dropping the natural or the attack to the front. Phoenix will be a surprise, and there will be 3-4 of them, actually, so that's a good amount. A couple of those units on the ground, too. Clem not going to go for it, with the units already prepared. This is where the Phoenix are supposed to get the punish. And boom! Now he knows it's Phoenix. Drop the Widow Mines, because nothing else to do. Cyclone does get a lock on, but the medevac will go down, and the Widow Mines will survive, but they won't get any shots. Clem had already decided to go into Cloaked Banshee, which is also awkward. And if there's one credit to the option of going into Phoenix or a Stargate in general, is that it is a surprise. Most of the time, right? The Terrans are like, Twilight Council, Twilight Council. Oh, Jesus, it's Phoenix. And this has really turned the first 5 minutes upside down for Clem, who expected to at least have the 5 minutes to be the one in control and the one doing the harassment. One Phoenix does finally go down. Second one is in danger. Oh, the second Phoenix does go down as well. 8 SCVs died, but 2 Phoenixes, quite a bit. You didn't want that to happen. The 1 was okay. The 2 was like, ah. But you get 8 SCVs is certainly not a bad takeaway. Medevac died as well. Yeah. Colossus is the choice, by the way. 3rd Nexus on the way. All 4 gases taken, and a Forge, and all your good stuff for the Protoss. Clem gets that little, oh shit, okay, alright, cool. And now he's gone into 3-1-1 with the 2 base setup. I don't believe Clem has done a lot of 2 base SCV pulls. It is something that, once upon a time, when Phoenix Colossus was really popular, it was also really popular when SCV pulls were really popular. But this was also before Legacy of the Void, so this isn't very pertinent. He is going up to 5 barracks, though. Will he SCV pull? I would kind of like it. And Hero probably wouldn't expect it. But Hero is going to more and more... Oh, no, he already saw the 4th and 5th barracks. Well... Then this should alert him to a lot of aggression early on. Whether it's an SCV pull or not, you don't know until they pull the SCVs. But 4th and 5th barracks coming on before that 3rd CC. Clearly there's going to be a lot of bio heading his way very quickly. But Hero has some time before he has to worry about that. Phoenix not going to try their luck again going after the SCVs. They also need to get as many Graviton beams ready. And it is going to be an SCV pull. Look at that. SCV pull. Boo, 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 boo. Well, Observer is going to see the SCVs, both sides of them. Hero needs to maybe grab another shield battery or 2, and that's exactly what he does. Phoenix going to try and lift what they can. If they get that tank or that Cyclone, that would be big. And they're going to get the Cyclone. Better than the tank, I guess, but still. A couple Marines fall back to deal with this. And the Phoenix don't move out of the way, so 1, 2 of them go down. Attack on the front lines. How is that going? That is just not a very fearsome Protoss army charge. Not yet done. Shield batteries are available on both ends. That's a big deal. What am I not going to get the best shot? Second, what am I getting destroyed? Tanks are now sieging up, however. Banshee is included just for the straight-up DPS, and here we go. SCV's tanking so far on the front line, but already getting melted. Bio getting very weak as well, and only 2 medevacs to heal them. They got to kill the Colossus ASAP, and 1 will go down. The second one getting targeted, and that will also barely not fall. Oh, he needed to get that. Oh, that took way too much to even attempt it. GG's. I still liked the idea, even if it didn't work. So Hero holds the SCV pool. Bottom left Hero, top right Clem. Don't don't know if he could really improve on the SCV pool, to be honest. Hero having 2 shield batteries really helped. 1 on each side. The Colossus could move one way or another and be relatively protected. The extra shield batteries as well on the third base, the one that he built as soon as he saw the SCV pool was on the way, saved that last Colossus's life. It did. Because the first shield battery out of juice, even the second one I think did, and it was like a third and a fourth one that were still keeping it alive. And I mean, the first 2 shield batteries keeping it alive might have already done the trick. Hero had already injured the bio and it killed all the SCVs, and that was just a matter of waiting for reinforcements. But there might have been there was a maybe, there was a what if the Colossus had gone down. There was no what if the Colossus lived. So it seemed kind of just that Hero did the appropriate things to defend. And I don't know what Clem could have done positioning-wise to help. Maybe some argument about the way he used his tank. Like, the bio took a lot of damage before the tanks threatened the Colossus. The tank, actually, singular. It was only 1 siege up for a while. But, you know, speed is the name of the game with the SCV pool, and I don't know, yeah. I think Protoss just did what they needed to do. Clem trying out a 5 racks SCV pool against a Phoenix Colossus opener, I think, is something he should try out and should continue experimenting with in his latter games. But is not going to happen again in this professional series. So another, factory expand here for Clem, who does go 1 racks factory, 1 racks factory. I do think my name looks less cool if it's all lowercase, and I think I noticed the same thing about the mobile app. I use the Twitch mobile app so infrequently, though. I actually uninstalled it at Katowice 24 because it was giving me bad vibes watching the Twitch chat. So I really try not to use it. I think they revamped it, and I still don't know what the revamp looks like. Reaper could get into the main base this time. Hero did not bother to wall. Possibly too annoyed by the tank pushes that's half of the time probably come at you on this map. Kill these buildings here. Which means you won't get away with anything hidden. Well, you could get away with something. Because this Reaper has yet to scout. But theoretically, this Reaper could force the issue and get a scout in a Twilight Council, which is in the natural, actually. Any online chat is generally bad vibes. Kind of. It really seems to depend on the day. It seems to depend on, like, the circumstance. I mean, honestly, the more that the chat grows large... Well, okay. This actually is a very obvious statement that everyone knows. The larger the chat, the worse it is. Everyone actually knows that. That is just a fact. But I was thinking more in terms of, like, particular caster callouts. You know, like, I feel like in the 2,000, 3,000 range, they're also, like, the most dedicated StarCraft fans, so they're very used to all of our faces. And there's like, it's ZombieGrub again, it's Wardy again, it's Rotterdam again. But you get to, like, higher and higher, and it's nothing but, like, where's Tastosis? I don't like this caster. I don't like that caster. Where's this other caster? I miss the days of day 9, you know. The more that the casuals come in, I suppose. So EWC chat was actually very nice, because it's kind of a low viewership. All right, we got a little bit of a push out here from Clem, trying to go for speed. Did not wait for the medevac. He's not coming on over, ferrying over a tank. As I said, that push is kind of popular because either it pushes here and kills buildings, or very commonly it pushes here and kills this building at the very least. Oh, a little held up, a little more of a hold up I was expecting. 2 stalkers are dead though for Hero, so was that hold up actually worth it? Tank going to be aggressively placed with a medevac, and another stalker could go down here. Cyclone near death, no SCV brought along, reinforcements thinking about it, gonna continue with it. Tank didn't siege up in the particularly clever position. Got it shot off and then was blinked upon. Medevac will also go down, and the Marines just looking for every last bit of stalker damage they can find. In total, 5 stalkers went down. You can see on the trade here, it did technically favor Hero, but not by a significant amount, and then you have to consider that the 3rd Nexus was stalled out that entire time. the third Nexus would always be on the way. But you had to rebuild the stalkers, you had to pull the probes, you had to prioritize maybe the Immortal. Like, the third Nexus still is not coming down, as we got the Warp Prism actually prioritized. So this is now very much a choice. I mean, the choice to defend was the right choice, clearly, and not get the third Nexus. Now it is continuing to be a choice of which you just decide to go for the aggression. And this means that Hero has to find damage. He's hoping that Clem might lose a couple more units while he's still retreating, and these are actually going to reinforce, but now retreating, they are going to die, and Clem is in a lot of trouble. War Prism still isn't here, but it's on the way, and Clem is lacking units. A Banshee is about to arrive, another tank is on the way, SCVs are being pulled. Clem did not expect the army to just show up on his front door. He probably, at least he thought he had some time to siege the tanks aggressively. Fortunately, the Banshee, a handful of Marines, and the tank will finally ward away Hero, but that War Prism could still come into effect. Oh, what is, oh, is that a Banshee? Oh, the Banshee, that was a second Banshee. Ow, Cloak was already done. The second Banshee is what was at home. The first one went across the map and killed 8 workers. Equalizing the worker damage done and actually equalizing the whole number of workers, which is a real problem for Hero, who again delayed his Nexus a lot. Not going to have that triple pro production like you would to kind of wave that off. No problem. Not going to break the Terran either. But as I was saying, he does have the Warp Prism, so he should still be able to find probably 4 or 5 extra SCVs worth of damage. It's going to take a while. Not going to be as effective, but it is better than just doing nothing. There's no reason to do nothing. He should have some defenses against the Banshee at home at this point. Yes, he does. And then these Stalkers, he only need 4 of them. 3 SCVs go down, maybe a handful of Marines too, and I guess that will be it as the tank now sieges up defensively. Sim could be in trouble too, however. It might be worth losing a Stalker for it. Not worth losing 2. Loses 1 Stalker. Yeah! Yeah! And he grabs it! He doesn't even want to risk the SCVs going in for the save there. That's a 20-30 second delay on the stim, plus the tech lab has to be made. Banshees were killing a handful of probes, once again equalizing the worker damage. But, it's that non-worker damage that's also very impactful. Later third Nexus, and then obviously the later stim. Still isn't replacing it. He's not going to replace it, he's just going to go for... I mean, you run replace just usually to have 2 Marauder production. I mean, as long as he doesn't forget it, right? As long as he doesn't forget it. I guess he is rather lacking on the gas. Oh, hello. There's 2 extra barracks. Hello! And once again, he's going for a 5 racks. That's why. Stim was rebuilt over on a far more protected tech lab position. And there's another conga line of SCVs. Yes, it is. But Stim isn't going to be done. War Prism with 2 Immortals. Just looking to take down... I mean, he can take down the tanks. That'd be the best thing he could go for. Looks a little courageous, but he knows he doesn't have stim, so... The chances of the Marines killing the Warp Prism very low. Another tank went down behind. Charge is done. Guardian Shield effective. Immortals coming in. Tanks are going to get maybe 1 shot off. Yeah, 1 and 2 on the second tank. But the Immortal Jug is good, and... Yeah, Hero just dominated this. Clem. Back-to-back SCV pulls. Not finding any effectiveness with it at all. The Hero looks way too strong. I feel like I hear the Jumanji sound. It's gone now. I swear to God, the Jumanji drums were beating, though. I swear to God. I was gonna say maybe he didn't want to show his real builds, but Hero is in the other group. How many beers? This is the first one. Are you kidding me? This is how much I've drunk. My mom might actually be watching Jumanji upstairs. cast some ZVZs. So ZVZ now, this is the winner's match, I believe. Shin beat Solar and... Or wait, Shin beat Harsum and Cham beat Solar? I don't know, something along those lines. But anyway, we got the ZVZ. It is going to be Shin in the top left and Cham in the bottom left. Now, Cham is not a part of EWC. Shin is, though. And ZVZ is not seen as often as it once was. So you kind of cast them when you get them. As far as the number of Zergs in Shin's group, well, right off the bat, he faces Raynor for EWC. And then he might have to face Solar in like a lower bracket, for instance. And then the other Zergs that are included are Rogue and Serral. So you do need to keep up to date on your ZVZ. So anyway, I do favor Shin, but Cham did defeat, again, I think it was Harsum. I think. So he's like in pretty good form. But Cham is just always a real wild card. I mean, he doesn't make an appearance very often internationally. And his games, even in, let's say domestically, I don't know if that's the right word for it, but his games in his own regions don't look flawless. But to his benefit somewhat, he just can be a very weird Zerg player. He can sometimes not look mechanically sound, but then that sometimes is weirdly advantageous. A supply block that causes an off timing of an all-in, so then the other Zerg players, oh, he's not all-inning. It's just 20 seconds late, which actually is enough to still win kind of situation. It certainly has happened in Cham's games, ZVZ and other matchups. So I don't want to start things off by saying, like, well, Cham shouldn't win because he just sucks. But it is one of those things where Cham is coming in at the underdog almost always against all the Koreans that are going to be involved in RSL. But I really don't paint him as the 100% can't get a game. Sorry, buddy. Because he's such a wild player at times. And with the wildness comes some of that cutthroatness as well, which means that he doesn't lose the games where he does start to lead. It's a problem, I would say, of actually getting the lead. That's ZVZ, fast, action-packed, full of surprises, something that Cham probably is benefiting from. Shin, aggressive Zerg player, we know that. Not the same type in my head as Cham, actually. Because I don't even think the Cham's really aggressive, actually. He's whatever the hell he wants to be. Does what he wants, Mom. Shin is, I feel like at least you can kind of read him a little bit more. Anyway, speed a little bit faster for Shin. In the good old days when ZVZ was all knife fights with Ling Baneling, this would have been an issue. In this day and age, I don't think it's that much of an issue. Speed will finish when speed needs to finish. Baneling nets for both parties. I mean, maybe they don't play each other that often, Shin and Cham, but I would say Shin probably has played Cham. They are both long-standing pro gamers of the StarCraft 2 community. Shin might have been named Ragnarok at the time, but I'm pretty sure they have faced each other. Shin and Cham makes you chuckle. Because they're just 4-letter names. A couple of Lings coming in just for the scout. Not going to see anything noteworthy, which is noteworthy. A lot more drones on the way. One Baneling just for safety's sake. And the hatchery is almost done for Shin. He went for a later hatchery than Cham did, but his queen is already there. Also grabbing an evolution chamber. For that faster +1 missile, the choice comes on through. The Ling of Cham will see that faster evolution chamber. You know, once upon a time, this actually was the most basic way to macro, and I would have called that 100% of the time. But with so many more games, having Carapace-based all-ins, having +1 melee games coming out of left field, like, this is an oddity to see such a macro game. But getting that +1 missile fast and then getting the Roach Warren while all building drones with a very typical timing of a lair, like, this is actually what used to be bread and butter of ZVZ before it became such an all-in fest. And speaking of, well, not all-ins, but necessarily, but different ways of playing, we do have Cham going for a faster lair. Evolution Chamber was built later on, and is going to grab that +1 melee, so Spire might just be the play here. With the wall provided, he's hoping to, I mean, obviously obscure the Spire that's going down in the main. What he also might have to do eventually, though, is try and hide the extra gases at the third base coming down so fast, and that's going to be a tougher task. Whereas you can just compare it to what Shin is doing and seeing his timings, and whether you really know the builds or not, easy peasy on the read, you know? It's the Shin, will he actually get the timing down? So far, okay, this is the link coming in. Spire's not yet halfway done. He's gonna come in and see gases that have clearly been taken for a while, because he can actually click on them. I mean, did he click that fast is another question. But they were faster than Shin's. It was enough. There you go. It was enough. As soon as he saw the 2 gases that fast, already completed, he grabs a Hydralisk then. I was wondering if maybe there's some type of alternative, like faster technology? Gas usage of that? But no. It is only for mutas. So, Shin knows what's up. Now, you can't go for an attack. He was not planning on an attack already, so he's not just going to send all those roaches across the field, not unless he was in a lot of trouble. He has gone for the Hydralisk and he will build the Hydras, he will play defensive. This gives Cham some opportunities. Cham's going to take a much faster 4th base, which he sent a long time ago. It's almost halfway done. And he also is going to try and send both mutas and lings alike into the multiple bases of Shin. Shin might be contained on 3 bases for an extended period of time, but if he doesn't take any damage for the next 3 minutes, it'll be pretty easy going for him. And then the next thing he has to really fear is what Cham's follow-up to mutas is. Is it Morph mutas? Is it Mass Baneling? Is it Lurkers? Is it Ultras? Shin just reaching out to grab the Overlord. I mean, he's a super solid amount of units. 9 mutas, not going to take on the 12 Hydras. The Banelings weren't even ready, and the Roaches were hoping to protect everything, even if they did. Shin had set up his own little run-by as well to get a little more action on the other side of the map, but also a little more scouting too, because you could tell perhaps what they're doing with the scout on the attack of the 4th base, how many drones they have, how many gas do they have. Maybe they go into the natural, they see the infestation pit, which is on the way, by the way, so Cham is going to be eyeing that hive. Shin does not hurry himself over to the infestors. He could, but he doesn't. A couple Overlords going to die and actually supply block Shin, at least temporarily. But Shin is actually going to go for the attack, which I would say is kind of bold because he doesn't know what exactly Cham is doing. There could be like 50 Banelings trying to roll in right now for all he knows, but it seems like he got a sight on the army just then. He sees some Roaches actually too. And he feels confident in the army that he has built up. +1 missile versus +1 melee. Cham now the one supply blocked. Yuta is not looking particularly helpful unless those Banelings kill all the Hydras. And are they? Yeah, they try. They get to like two or 3. Mutas find some Hydras off to the right side as well. Now they're going to target fire down the Hydras that are available, and this will collect all the anti-air. The reinforcements not coming in nearly fast enough. The Roaches of Shin really not left over in high numbers. They might get a couple extra drones. They will. No, they're going to try and escape. They're going to go over to that 4th base. They may as well just try and kill whatever drones they can. Shin was hoping that that was a little bit better, I would say, because now he's done that 3-base attack while Cham has 4 bases, 74 drones, and he has not gotten any additional technology. He had his Hydra count reset, and they're not exactly inexpensive. I mean, this is a little scary for Shin at this point. I kind of gave confidence to the attack move out because, well, I'm not a very good ZVZ player, so of course, if he does it, then it must be good. But that was a risky maneuver. And Cham was just barely able to hold on. 4th hatchery now under fire. The Hydra count is going to be good enough against the mutas by their lonesome, of course. It's just the fact that there could be more Roaches, could be Lings, could be Banelings also coming in that make it a little scary to roam around with the Hydras like that. +2 melee will also finish, and those Lings seriously won't be something to sneeze at. Like, you gotta really worry about the Banelings and the Lings at this point. Infestation Pit was created. 2 infestors are on the way for Shin. That'll help against both the mutas and the Banelings. Cham's own infestation pit might have been an attempt to go to Hive, but perhaps with how the recent engagement went, and he decides to change that. Rather than playing slowly into a Hive. Oh, no, there's a hive. Still, he prioritized building up 24 mutas first. That was a kill, not a cancel. It's 2 hatcheries killed, actually. The lings are up the top right, and Shin gonna have trouble with this. Can't be everywhere at once. And this is where Cham does start to feel a little more comfortable getting to that hive. I mean, if he had gone directly into hive first, you know, Shin maybe doesn't feel as pinned back. Shin actually gets defenses up at his 4th base, and instead, Cham now has an army that is fearful, that is going to try and go after the Banelings. Fungal did hit the Banelings, though. Funneling Banes go after the Trones. Whoops. But you know what? Eventually they did. A couple of Banelings hit them. I don't know what else happened elsewhere, but we had 33 Trones go down. The Mutas went into the main by the looks of things. 33 Drones killed. That is a lot to lose, and Shin still doesn't have a 4th base. Cham looks like he's going to win this game one way or another. He's got technology on the way. He's also got a very large army, although not as large as Shin. Right now, there's a 20 arm supply difference. Cham has the upgrade lead. His +2 melee lings and banelings should do good work unless they all get fungled. There's not that many fungals. It is off of creep. Fungal on top of a muta and baneling portion. Another fungal on top of the rest. Split there from Shin, but the banelings are still rolling on through, and those hydras looking awfully vulnerable. Oh, that is not going to be good enough at all. GG's. Cham wins game 1. What did I say? What did I say? And that's Cham up 1, top right Shin, bottom left Cham. Shin, again, I feel like he played it quite dangerously. There was an option to just hold up on 3 bases, build up to the fungals, protect yourself from the attack, and then scout perhaps with an overseer. Although that would be difficult, obviously, with the mutas around, but ideally get a feel for if they are going into the mass muta, ling, baneling, and attacking you, or they're going into the hive. And then depending on which one it is, you know, either continue playing very defensive or add on your own technology. There was absolutely that option. There was also an option to try and kill a guy who was teching, which was kind of more so what Shin was hoping would work out. Whether he... I think he did kind of figure out that Cham was going to add on technology. There wasn't that many mutas that were being made. But anyway, Shin decided to move out. And the problem is just that Hydras really need to be in a critical mass. Mono to mutas, maybe not so much. But if there's also going to be lings included, if there's going to even be, like, queens, honestly, included transfusing. Like, there are also glass cannons. Both units glass cannons. One person reinforces much faster. You're very, very dedicated when you move out with Roach Hydra. So if you are not going to win, you're not going to reinforce either to protect your retreat. And then you're just going to lose so much on the retreat. And then you've lost all your units to try and protect all those bases against faster units again. It's the rock versus the water, I guess, or something like that. Anyway, whereas you're supposed to be immovable, you're supposed to be kind of the perfect army. When you're maxed out, you got your spellcasters, maybe you can get to lurkers, and that's really quite protected against something that is going to try and bash its head into the wall over and over and over again. Or go into ultras. But that would still eventually go into bashing your head into the wall. We all know this period. We all saw the ZVZ play out in like the 2018, 2019s. And there was a lot of struggles, actually, for the defensive player at that time. I recall a lot of games in which the Ling Baneling Ultra player ended up winning. But it still was the other option, and moving out when he did not work at the end of the day. Could work the next time he tries it. Could just result in the same. Maybe there was a little bit of underestimating Cham. After all, he had caught everything Cham was doing thus far. He saw that it was going for a Spire. He saw that he had some Lings ready to go for a run by. He saw the Banelings creating when he started to move out. Kind of felt like he did have Cham under his thumb, but it's not true. From 1 to 5, where's German wheat beer for you? I don't have that strong opinions of beers. I don't even know. Like, to even remember what exactly all those types of beers are supposed to taste like would be a struggle for me. I generally understand what wheat beer means. Does German wheat beer mean something different? I don't know. I am not a beer connoisseur. I'm not really a wine connoisseur either. But I do know a lot more about wine than I know about beer. That is true. We got some good old-fashioned Ling Baneling on the way. How about that? Both players making a very good amount of Lings. Cham's 2 Lings on the front line here might just be for Baneling purposes. And that certainly looks more and more like it. But right now, Cham needs to defend back at home, so Baneling's prioritized on the defense. Third hatch is in some trouble. 1 Baneling focus fired. But it was actually 6 Banelings being made, so that is plenty. Shin has already gone back into droning, though. So this was not intended to truly win the game. But if your opponent had tried to skip a Baneling nest or had skipped building a good amount of Lings, I mean, this could have killed the 3rd hatch. Giving Shin a very easy game number 2. Baneling gonna make it a connection. Yeah, Shin. Still not quite able to take down 4 Banelings, I would suspect, though. That Cham is falling further behind in the drone count. At this point, very much on purpose. He is building a lot of Lings. 2 Banelings that were formerly offensive are going to try and go for a sneak by, but that's not going to work at all. Only one of them will hit, and that's not good enough. As soon as Shin sees that there are more Lings being created, he can make his own Lings, and he still ends up ahead 6 workers. Okay, 1 Baneling at least lives. Cham needs to find some damage here, or he needs to really convince Shin that he's going to have to look for more damage, and thus get ahead on the drones, which he is trying to get some now. Roachborn finishing for Cham, already done for Shin. But Shin isn't really... You don't really go into Roaches too fast. They're a little more expensive, you know, pound for pound with the Lings. And they also don't really help out a lot until they hit maybe 5. Yeah. 1 or 2 Roaches popping out could just be surrounded and not particularly helpful. Oh, that Baneling was a good one. That was a good one. But Shin has his own Banelings, and that will protect his 3rd. And his Roach count is steadily building, so that now he can go into Roaches more than continue playing this Ling-Baneling game. Lair on the way for Shin, faster than Cham's. Both players along the same path at this point. It's that Shin got there faster. Got there faster in the drones, got there faster in the lair, getting there faster in the evolution chamber, which seems placed quickly. But yeah, it's there. Almost looks like a Nidus form. The Ling's at Cham now, probably just trying to get some type of scouting. Cham actually sent some of his Roaches across the map. I don't know if he really was planning for a follow-up, or maybe he thought... Yeah, maybe he thought the droning was too hard there for Shin. Not actually. Shin is making quite a few Roaches. He is only on 48 drones. Shin was going for a lair. He has canceled it. He is going to go for a big ol' attack. I don't know if Cham's going to read into that. Did Cham even see the lair? No, he didn't. So there's a decent chance that Cham does not play greedy. That he does not add any more drones. But as I say that, 1 more drone is on the way. If he just built army from here on out, I think Defender's Advantage will work out for Cham. Unless Ling's get a hell of a surround. But if he starts building drones again, I think that'd be very, very dangerous. And it looks like Cham, knowingly or not, is going for the right maneuver here. He is building nothing but army. And I think he just saw the army move out as well. So he's even going to capture a Ravager. Nice moves with the Lings right there. Cham playing some excellent ZVZ. Only down 4 army supply. With Defender's Advantage kicking in, yeah, this should be a win for Cham. We'll see what Shin can do. Ling's coming on the backside, looking for that big surround. Corrosive Bile is helping with a little bit of crowd control as well, but Ling's also from Cham on the backside help out. And there we have the Queen's pull. Drones be pulled at the very last second as well, if you even need it. I don't believe Cham will. Shin changed his mind, decided to go for an all-in, hoped to find Cham being a little too greedy. Cham was not at all greedy, didn't even get an upgrade. Shin thought he had presented a certain type of Zerg. He had shown an evolution chamber at the very least. And it did not convince Cham to go into more drones. Cham wins that particular battle, has his lair done, can now start to afford that +1 missile, the Roach speed, as well as whatever drone count that he wants. The +1 missile is still going to end up behind, though. Shin was building army, but he did actually start that +1 missile. Now he's building drones, and now he is going to finish the lair so that the lair timing ends up not being a big issue. Cham will still have a large portion of the game where he had 4 more drones, but it looks like with everything that was happening in the ZVZ back and forth, this is actually kind of just evened out their overall. I mean, they shouldn't even maybe still kind of winning. As far as the spikes go, I don't know. I'm going to do the math on that one. But we got a new player introduced here, and it's the Spire. Cham hoping that's going to be kept hidden. Shin, once again, maybe... The 6 gases have already been taken. I mean, this could just be for all the Ravager production. This isn't necessarily, I think, as big of a tell as the last game. Overseer is desperate to try and find the Spire if it does exist, but it will not. Changeling killed as well. And you can see that Shin not reacting so far, so though it wasn't enough of a scout. He's got Lings over to the right side, Lings over to the left, hoping that one pack of them might get into the main base. Seems likely. There is no wall, but there are a decent amount of roaches. And Shin isn't going to force the issue. Cham just predicting these Ling run-bys by the looks of things. Overlord's kind of conservatively placed so that when the corrosive biles do appear, they don't just kill 7 Overlords. Just enough to see the incoming attacks, really. And then the other scouts he's doing with the Lings can see if there's a big attack on the way, which, yeah, that one might have just seen it. It saw certainly roaches, didn't see maybe all the Ravagers created, but now is the time to produce army. Fortunately, Cham's Spire is done. He will have the Mutas helping in the defense, but will that be enough? Muta's not going to do a whole lot of damage to Roach Ravager. Upgrade also going to Shin. Shin might just be able to win this one. 20 armor supply lead. The Mutas are going to cause some trouble. It's going to focus right on the Ravagers, certainly. But that +1 missile is going to make a big difference on the ground. A huge difference on the ground. Cham still waiting on that one to finish up, hoping the Baron's Advantage kicks in, hoping the Mutas eventually help out enough, and maybe that is the case. More reinforcements coming in for both players. Shin, maybe not quite enough, as Cham's Roach Speed plus his missile attack will finally finish up. He was missing both, but also the Spine Crawlers are finishing up. Shin came in from the left, the Spine Crawler is built on the right, and everything combined together means that Cham will once again hold, and now he's got those upgrades he so desperately needed. He has the Mutas to clear out the Overlords and harass the bases, and Cham is going to be going into Muta Baneling by the looks of this. Baneling speed on the way. Taking out the last few Ravagers while he still has the opportunity, knowing that anti-air will be provided at the bases. Not going to try his luck any further, but it looks like Shin not going to try this game any further. Just taps out then and there. Doesn't want to deal with the headache that is certainly on the way. Mutas on one side, Roaches on another. He taps out, and Cham, 2 zeros. What a result from him in this group. Ugh, I don't want to cast on their ZVZ so soon. Not really. We'll continue changing things up. We'll cast Classic versus Rainer as our last series. Some PvZ action now. In the bottom left of Persephone, we have Rainer. And in the top left, it is Classic. I cast these two recently from a Wardy TV replay pack, I believe. It was maybe 3 weeks ago, which this also was like 3 weeks ago. Or maybe more like 2 weeks ago. Anyway, not exactly sure about the timeline. I am sure that Rainer looked really good. I mean, Rainer was just slapping things away. He was just like, oh, meh, 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 meh. Things that were quite difficult, I think, for Zerg players to usually achieve 100% defense with, you know, Adepts and Oracles flying around. And he was great. Very surprised by the result. Classic's a very good Protoss player. Rainer is a great Zerg player, but then Rainer has also had some frustrations in the matchup. And he was able to deal with, I think, both frustrations in that best of. I might be confusing best ofs at this point, to be honest with you. But there was 2 occurrences in which Rainer first dealt with Oracle harassment, no problem. I mean, I'm talking literally 0 drone kills, which is pretty amazing. And then 2, he dealt with a late game Protoss army. I think he was already winning at that point, to be fair. But he still dealt with it. And no lack of morale was shown as the Protoss inched closer and closer to getting a maxed out Tempest army. Even if they're only on 3 bases. But yeah, oh, I might be versus Max Packs. I think I am. I think I get both series in which Rainer looked surprisingly strong. And it's not just like I'm like, Rainer usually sucks and he's getting tilted all the time. It's more just, I expect Rainer to win a decent amount of the games that he plays. I don't expect to watch Adepts and Oracles thrown in such succession, say that 5 times fast, and then be totally and utterly deflected. I mean, it was really no problem. So I wonder if the same thing's going to happen here a little bit later on, back to facing the Korean Protoss Classic, who at one point definitely held the title of best Oracle usage. That's the test here. And for Classic, obviously the test of is Protoss versus Zerg. He will be facing, I think, Rogue at first at EWC. I was right about that. So Classic Rogue, and then Rainer faces a Zerg, actually. And then probably Maru, if I had to guess. So his EVP might not be tested immediately at EWC, but it will eventually be tested. And it's one of the matchups where certainly he had the most frustrations with, at least a while back. Maybe it's improved as time in Korea has learned him some good stuff. So far, normal openers for both sides. Hatchery, kind of cute attempt to block it still. Trying to get the pylon down too. At least doesn't get the pylon down. Rainer is going to get, I don't know, tilted. He probably just would have cracked a smile if it had. But the probe does die, and Classic goes into the Oracle, which is pretty good on a map that is so quick and easy to the main base. 1 drone saved the Spore Crawler, 2nd drone saved the Spore Crawler. Adept dies for the attempt. Will we get an actual Spore Crawler on the way is now my question. Okay, there it is. Is it coming down a little bit late, though? I feel like it might be. When the Adept is dead and there's no second Adept. Oh, the second Adept went across the map. 4 Lings coming in, hoping that the Oracle will be brought back for this, perhaps. Actually, the Spore Crawler is literally perfectly timed. Wow. Almost, yeah, pretty literally perfectly timed. Wow. The timing, though. Man. That on purpose. That is perfect. Oracle does manage to find 1 drone, but it takes a lot of damage, including some whole health. And then 2 probes have gone down to the Lings that's had speed kick in while they were in the main base, too. And this Adept being lazy. Actually, probably not lazy. He probably just doesn't want to go around chasing when the probes are clearly the thing that it has to defend. But the natural! The probes pulled in to deflect this. And the Oracle, once again, using Pulsar Beam. With 25 energy lost. I mean, Rainer so far getting all the little tiny bits. If you start to add these up, maybe he takes a decent lead, but we're not quite there yet. Pretty equal as far as the resources trade. 2 oracles with a good amount of energy, but now we have a spore crawler in every base. We also have 5 queens. Evolution Shepherd comes out on the main, that it might be scouted. It's not. And it's not in the naturals. The Adepts won't scout this one, but the Adepts are looking for the drone line. Not gonna get close to it with their current shade. They might try again. Yeah, probably not. I mean, yeah, now maybe they have to. Oracles do have to help the Adepts make sure that Ling Surround doesn't go through. The Adepts are also threatening the drone, so it was kind of there's potential on both sides at multiple sets of units. +1 melee is the goal here, and I want to talk about that. So Classic did not see the Evolution Chamber at any time. I mean, he didn't see a Roachborn either, and the more that a Roachborn isn't scouted, the more maybe you are thinking about a Ling upgrade as well, and that's so popular lately too that probably is where Classic's mind is going. Stalkers are being produced, so that's kind of clear that's going to be a Blink follow-up, which is also very expected. But, you know, confirming at least it's not nothing but the Depths, which has hit Raynor before, and what he deflected so cleanly. But it is going to be Stalkers. Blink on the way, +1 on the way, Templar Archives on the way, and Raynor grabs his 4th base. Creep spread starting to get sent out a little bit more. Those Adepts were trying to stall out the creep spread as well as threaten the queens to a certain degree with the oracles. But Raynor was able to guard everything and grab one of the oracles. Spore Crawler protects the 3rd base. This oracle not taking any more hull damage, but it's only 1 oracle left here. Gonna actually use Revelation just to be a nuisance. A little nuisance. Because there's not really a follow-up to attack this 4th base, which the delay on the creep spread. You know, it would have been awesome timing if there was anything actually hitting it. There is not. We are not near a timing for Classic. He is going into Storms, getting 6 gases at this moment. Raynor does not have a lot of scouting himself as of yet, although the lair is done. He has not sent an Overseer in. I don't know if he saw the 6 gases either. Yeah, no, not a lot of scouting at all. I mean, what he's pretty sure of at this point is that it's not going to be a big Stalker attack on the front lines. If it was, he would be a bit blindsided. This is where Ling probably has been scouting the left side for quite some time. Yeah, I still see he's not much. Tension of a 4th base might have been last second scouted. Oh yeah, it was. And Raynor even takes this middle base, which seems kind of cheeky, but I think I said this 4 months ago whenever the maps were introduced. The more that we have this as an option, I think the more that we're going to use it. And then the more that it's used, the more that the opponents aren't going to let it happen, right? Because initially it might be kind of like, oh yeah, you could take that as a base. Oh yeah, okay, now I should go kill that. And then it's going to be like, well, this little bastard got a gold base, didn't he? I'm going to go right after that thing. But Raynor, you know, he grabs a 5th and a 6th at the same time. In a way, kind of pseudo-hiding it. I mean, it's not uncommon for Zerg's double expand, but... Classic, again, not ready to attack at any time. He has gone for technology, and he has now gone for... economy with the 4th base, but he is finally about ready to do some amount of damage. I mean, 4 Storms available, War Prism available, Lings, Hydras. Catching Classic a little surprised, but aren't really looking to tango in that fashion as of yet. None of the upgrades are done, and this is a little sketch. Raynor loses some Hydras. Classic seeing the opportunity, he's going to push it, he's going to kill this 5th base, basically guaranteed. But it's red herring. It's, you know, it's not even really the base. Raynor has already sent drones over to the gold, which is not even scouted. That will give him some crucial extra seconds to gather more Ling Hydra and finish up. At the very least, I believe there's the Hydra speed upgrade finishing, like at least, you know, just to give him a little extra dodge opportunity. Classic, now his choice is either to continue moving in, thinking he found a real vulnerable moment, or to play it a little more cautiously. And it looks like the latter is going to be the option. Cleaning up some creep spread. Happy with the 5th base kill. I would say that is generally something you'd be happy with, except it's not actually the 5th base. That is the problem here. Raynor is like, yeah, take that base. Didn't even really need it. Somewhat for the larva by the looks of things, but other than that, losing a 6th base that early on, not something that Raynor's going to cry over. Raynor does now have his centrifugal hooks done, 1/1 on his attack upgrades. Still no range for his Hydras, though, as he grabs an infestation pit. Wait. Yes, that does exist. Every time I don't see it, it makes me doubt which period of time we are in StarCraft 2. This has happened to me before. It's like, no, you still have 3 upgrades on the Hydralisk end. Anyway, Queens deflect the Warp Prism, and they will clean up the Zealots, while Raynor clearly prioritizing this attack, trying to micro. Maybe gone for the High Templars over here, but Hydras left alone are slaughtered. Baneling's not quite hitting the Baneling or the probes yet, but there you have it. 10 probes do go down. The Nexus, will that fall is now the question. The Hydra is starting to go after it. It's the +1 melee Lings trying to get the nibbling going, and that is going to be able to kill it just barely, I believe. The Lings actually stopped attacking it for a second. Oh, if they had +2, that 100% went down. 100%. Classic holds on to his 4th, losing 14 probes while having the 4 probe production is not too bad. Not too bad. And he did that while also transitioning over into carriers. That is, I think, the truly fearsome sight right now. If he's doing that while only just building the extra Stargate and the Fleet Beacon, Raynor probably doesn't feel as scared, but having the 4th base saved while having the carriers about to pop, Raynor could be in some trouble. Hive is not yet halfway done. Spire's only just begun as well. Raynor going to go in for another attack. Hope this works out a little bit better. Baneling's looking for the High Templars more than anything else. The Ling's doing so as well, but the Storm so far helping and still available. Nexus finally does fall, though that is something Raynor can take. He runs back home. Nexus falling, 14 more probes. He'll take it. He'll have to take it. Otherwise, there was just one too many storms for him to actually kill all of Classic's army. It wasn't all of Classic's army, was it? Oh, the carriers still aren't out. Jesus. Jesus. It felt like they came along relatively quickly and then they just stalled, and I guess that's the difference of Chrono Boost and not Chrono Boost. Raynor, by the way, gold base, still unscouted. I think, you know, this is the game that Classic looks at the replay and goes, you son of a bitch, and then never lets it happen again. EWC, he will scout that base first. I'll bet $10 on it. I just trying to luck on the right side, not going to find anything, but Ling's going back over to the left, ensuring the 4th base is not planted down easy peasy. Adept is still blocking the wall. Lings won't get in there, and the Lings are now in a little bit of trouble. A lot of them are starting to go down. If they are Lings, then we are on 5 bases gold. 6 base is necessary, as we've had a couple of minutes pass. Hive has finished up, as well as the Spire. So Raynor, you know, I don't actually think this is a super comfortable game for the Zerg. Actually, you are still pretty afraid of the Protoss being able to build a maxed out army on 4 bases at this point in time. And while that means they don't have a lot of leeway, the Protoss is also scared. They're like, I don't have any mistakes to make. I need to play perfectly from here on out. I don't think this is a slam dunk, easy peasy A move for either player. Raynor really needs a lot more technology to finish, needs a lot more spellcasters to be included, needs a lot more opportunities, like positioning-wise, given to him, and needs more of a bank, really, to feel comfortable. Classic's 4th base is currently the goal. He'll have to worry about a 5th later, as his main and natural start to mine out. He is getting to the air plus ground army, which can be so frustrating for Zerg players to defeat, and with a good supply. It's not like he's at 130 supply, then it is game over. Good upgrades, too. He did actually prioritize some +1, probably while that attack was going on, actually, so the carries with +1. That much more helpful. Classic was trying to send some run-by units over, maybe to the bottom right. Maybe he's just clearing out a potential nexus. But either way, they don't scout the gold base. I mean, Classic might be a little surprised. Because if he has seen the 5th base also not being taken, he's like, what the hell? There's so many Zerg units. But there's not much he can do. Any Zealots he sends across the map probably won't do well enough to be worth their loss. Carry, abducted, killed, easy. High Templars, nowhere close. Chitinous plating on the way. +1 Carapace for the air prioritized. Good choice. 2-3 on the way for the ground melee. Wait. Yes. 3-2 for the ground melee. There we go. 2-2 for the Hydras. Archon also getting caught out. So Classic, you know, he tried to go over for 5th base, and his army is just finding himself out of position. He's losing some pretty expensive units. You know, some Lings died in the process, I suppose. But an Archon and a Mortal going down? Great. Carrier guy was totally alone? Great. All this time spent for Raynor to build up that bank, as I was saying, he really needs it, because Classic is going to max out. I think that was something he expected even after the 4th base was killed. He didn't quite cut the head off the snake. But he's expecting a maxed out Protoss army. It might be the only maxed out Protoss army that he seems to fight, but it is a very scary army. too much casting at this point. I hit the peak of casting like 2 hours ago, and now we're just gonna get worse. Ling's going for the run by, looking also to maybe collect some reinforcements, like this Archon, for instance. Or just clear out the cannons. Classic decides not to push the issue too much more. Nice save. No base that he could easily snipe and escape from. Raynor did not bother re-establishing that base. Is Hydras and Ultras as opposed to Lurkers a normal transition? Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. Particularly, okay, so I think the trick is that Lurkers are often better as a follow-up when the opponent is not yet on Stargates. And that was absolutely not Raynor's plan to go quickly into Lurkers. He spent a lot of time on Ling Hydra. And if he had not killed that 4th base and traded out just as much as he did, I think he'd be in a lot of trouble for it. But, you know, he did get the base, he did trade out a bit, and then he was given some time to get to Hive. Into Ultras make a lot of sense to clear out the ground army, particularly the High Templars, and then let everything else do its job. Whereas Lurker is just going to be much harder to have that accomplishment. They're going to have to burrow, unburrow, obviously. They're not going to be able to blitz as much. And they're not going to be able to surround as often. They can also, I mean, it kind of turns like playing around the Lurkers versus playing into the Ultras. Once again, push comes to shove. Classic's 5 base setup, giving him some backup as well. So his bank is there. I mean, it's not big, but it's there. And Raynor does finally lose that gold base. Very clearly mined out, though. But Raynor is going to need another one. And he's also going to need to take this fight as well as he possibly can. Feedback's immediately on the Vipers. Corruptors trying their best to go after the carriers, which did get parasitic bombed. And the Ultras looking to chomp away on those storms and not able to do so. The Archons and whatever Immortals were there able to provide a brick wall that the Ultras could not pierce through. Raynor going to go for the Remax. Obviously, this is his goal. This is what Zerg has to do, but so many drones are going to die in the process. That 5th base, Raynor's freshest mining base, gone. Classic. I might just be doing it. Raynor does not have a Ling run-by that is decimating the production at this point. He's got nothing besides the Remax of the army, which he can barely get to. Another base will fall, one that didn't have much mining left over. And Raynor has used his bank on all these Ultras. He's got to win this fight and then win the game. And that's just something that Classic doesn't have to give him. Classic could, you know, recall worst case scenario. Raynor would have to now triple expand to hope to make a comeback in the economy. Ling's going to go for a run-by, but that's a lot of cannons. Pylons are vulnerable, though. That's a good... Immediately noticing the pylons are being vulnerable is going to force the recall of most of the army. Raynor, too bad not sharking around for this. Actually, he will find it. An Ultra will be lost for it, but he's going to have to go and try and collect that while he can. Some drones were saved, but he's missing hatcheries. He just doesn't have any mining. Unfortunately, Raynor's defense was not good enough. Not against the might of the Protoss army. Kind of went into a little bit of a choke as well. Probably one of the worst locations to take the fight. Or was it here? Or something like that. That is a lot of Ultras, but Ultras don't shoot up. 9 Corruptors are here, but Raynor... I already knew it was going to happen. GG's. Classic wins game 1. Yeah. Raynor was kind of still recovering, but... Oh. Ooh. One of the new maps. One of the different maps in RSL. Ooh. Bottom left of Kill Switch is Raynor. Well, middle left. And then middle right is Classic. And unfortunately, that game was, you know, very action-packed. And then it just went to a lull. That, kind of favored Classic, I guess, to a degree. I don't think that was a mere case of Protoss being very good. I think Classic made some very good choices. You know, from the get-go, going into carries as fast as he did might have opened up the opportunity to lose the 4th base, but that did end up paying off, as Raynor was not equipped to really deal with the carriers and storms, obviously. So that really, like, if we're thinking about the pacing of a ZVP in our brain as like a graph, it just was, the Protoss had already gotten ahead in the technology, and then the Zerg player had purposefully stopped in the middle on lair technology. And then I'd had to stay on lair technology to really find the damage that was necessary. Because it took him the second attack to actually kill the Nexus and continue trading out the army as he did. Which was a trade. It wasn't... Raynor didn't kill the entire army. Very important point. Nor did he get the Nexus easy peasy instantly and then run away. And that's when he started building into Hive. And that's when he started to build into dealing with the carriers. Like, there was a drag. That's what I'm trying to say. There's a drag in the Zerg pacing when they do that. Whereas for Classic, it's not so much a drag in the pacing of his technology as much as it's a drag in his economy. But when he already has the technology and he says, okay, I only have a certain amount of resources, let's make sure I have enough storms. Let's make sure I don't have, like, no reinforcements. And let's make sure that we put everything we have into those carriers. Like, he is going to have to react to those strongly, and that is going to take him a long time. And that's what Classic was able to benefit from. Classic, I think, also didn't really remake a lot of probes, by the way, so his 5th base, despite it being gotten, was never saturated, which also, I think, contributed to some of his army count and survival, I guess. But Raynor, he also took one of the worst possible fights, I think, because he was never set up for an offensive fight, was he? He was trying to get to Hive, he was trying to get to his upgrades, he was trying to get to the Ultras, he was trying to get to the Corruptor count, he was trying to get to the Vipers. And when he finally did, it wasn't him controlling the engagement because it was still a scary scenario. There wasn't a big bank to play with. There was not a lot of space on that map as well to really kind of depend on the travel time saving your life. So, Raynor forced to take a defensive engagement against the army that he 100% will always have to remax against. So it's just how ZVP works. Already sets him up for a little bit of defeat. And then it was through a choke, so... I mean, it does suck, but... For Raynor, who probably thought he was on the edge of victory. But you know what? I really don't think Raynor was surprised with how that ended. And that might be because he was a little frustrated by it, but... I don't think he's surprised at all. Once there's this gigantic lull, and the Protoss isn't dead... Any Zerg player starts to go... This map, by the way, I don't know anything about it. The 2 drones go down to an Oracle. I was thinking, like, rush distance-wise? Natural to natural? Let's see, here you go. There's rocks there, and then you go around, and then you go... Okay. Is that how you do it? Or maybe go around. No idea how long it is. Looks like a big enough map when you talk about corner to corner, but that's the last spaces you're going to take. Some doodads. A lot of doodads. Take a look at in a second. The larva was taken down. 1 drone. 3 drones in total. What about the doodads? This is a rock tower. I don't know which way it goes. It might go both ways. And then you have slow zones. Rocks blocking this pathway. Why does this look like more mineral patches? Gold minerals blocking the way into your main base on the backside for both of them. That's a lot of gold minerals too, so that would be quite a few SCV trips. And then regular minerals in the natural, only 4 worker trips for that one. So that could easily be a 4th. And then there's a cooling tower, so you could just continue to wall this off. And then you could take a 4th up here, I guess? Does the rock tower destroy the inhibitor zones? Good question. I don't know. I know that it destroys Alnagos, but I do not know about inhibitor zones. I mean, Shred, you could balance wine, and you might be right even. You might. Or you could at least acknowledge that StarCraft 2 is all about asymmetrical balance, so of course a Zerg player couldn't do what a Protoss player could. There's a lot of Protoss players out there who are like, well, I can't remax having banked up larva and minerals in an instant. I have to wait for stupid gateways. Speaking of stupid gateways, we do have a proxy gateway here. And it's a new map. It's a map no one's really going to be playing a lot on. I actually would guess no one really purposefully practiced this map before playing RSL. Maybe a little, but this is not going to be a map in which there are a lot of obvious proxy locations. And even if it was really played out, there's just a weirdness to this map's architecture. A lot of Blink Stalkers on the front line, distracting Raynor anyway, as we have 18 on the front line, accompanied by these 2 Oracles to safeguard them against a lot of Lings. Upgrade is already done from the Forge, and the Lings already also have their +1 melee, so the Stalkers do have to be careful. 15 probes go down. Hello. Ling Baneling run by. Nicely timed here. Might even be able to get the Nexus. Oracles might be able to save it. I don't know. No, it's not going to happen. Stasis Trap not helping out enough, as Stalkers are going down to the front lines, and Classic not even going to use his proxy gateway. Raynor, keep in mind, is not exactly heavy on the minerals himself. Only at 50 drones. Entirely Ling-based. And the 4th hatch, you know, not mining. He's only on 50 drones. So this is not over, but the 3rd Nexus actually being killed does probably make Raynor feel good about his choice. I mean, the choice to just defend the Stalker attack while droning would have been... If you had the choice, it would have been great, but... The decision to go after the 3rd base has kept Raynor in this game, that's for sure. How many Stalkers have died? 9? I actually thought that would be more. That's not too bad. 1 Oracle still helping out. No, 2 Oracles still helping out. Classic not going to let up on the gas. I mean, he's kind of all in at this point. He is not rebuilding a 3rd. Probably wishes he could have saved that proxy gateway, though. Good on Raynor to actually catch it before Classic came back in to defend against it. A lot of Lings dying without getting the surrounds. Raynor starting to bleed out a lot. Trying to get to that Hydralisk stand to add in some of that DPS, that range DPS, but it might be coming in too late. Stalker number is still looking strong. 28 of them with +1, about to be on 1-1. Overlord's now in trouble. Drones are going to have to be pulled, and Raynor is not going to be able to hold here. Despite killing the 3rd Nexus, he still cannot take down the Stalker counts. They have hit critical mass, whereas the Lings continue to be unable to find surrounds. They go for the reinforcements, not a bad idea, but perhaps a little too late. Raynor loses a 3rd that you could argue was kind of a 4th. He does not have enough drones to saturate more than 3 bases anyway. So in a way, I mean, it's not okay, but in a way, it's okay. You know, I mean, we still have our typical, 2 base versus 3 base. That's what Zerg's supposed to be on. So many queens to help out here is actually something that is helpful, especially as the Hydra starts to pop up. They'll have even more of a buffer on the front lines, but oh, that is so many Stalkers. Oh, that is 37 Stalkers. Oh, I don't know. Queen's gonna try and keep these Hydras alive, with the Lings once again go for a run by, but they're needed back at home. They just will never get us around through this choke. That is it. GG's. GG's. Classic looks strong. Strong. And that'll be it for my casting today. My voice is starting to get sore. So thanks for watching, guys. We're going to cast replays tomorrow and the next day. Probably not Saturday. Saturday I leave for EWC. But we still have a lot of RSL replays to cover, so we'll definitely start to prioritize the later stages as well as the EWC players. That'll be tomorrow. Tonight, we got some good old-fashioned Dungeons and Dragons. If you're interested in that, it's a bunch of StarCraft 2 people doing stupid stuff in about 3 hours. No, 4 hours actually. In about 4 hours. Yep. So if you like that, come back and watch it. But if not, I'll see you all tomorrow for more StarCraft 2 casting. Bye, guys.